tsanangurira nemo vakanzoti VFU akafungidzira ndakunodi ndakunosungwa kwakuenda kuVFU kwakunotsanangurwa kwakunotaurirwa nase mukadzi nemurume takabva ikoko takanserwa nevanhu vanga vari ikoko zvekuti patakatoya murodi tichisvika kumbaka aiwa rudo rwanga rwakatsva
mukadzi amanikidzwa bonde kana asingari
mudzimba munoda rudo kana mawana mari ivai munesa pamusoro pamwe chete chataura mumwe unofanira uchiteererawo.
With SASA together, the future can only be bright.
My name is Leo Munyono from Say What, Manicaland. I'm here today under the Action for Choice project where we have young men under the Mugota platform. They've been doing dialogues during this event and they've been talking to young men of their age, talking about different issues of sexual and reproductive health. We are emphasizing that young men, male students, are partners and supporters for young women or female students to access sexual and reproductive health services. These dialogues are meant to promote positive choices amongst young men. We are especially saying young men should not be perpetrators of sexual harassment. Young men should not be perpetrators of gender-based violence within the college environment. So we are saying young men should be supporters for female students. Young men should help in creating a conducive environment where female students are comfortable and safe to access sexual and reproductive health services. The dialogues have been taking place in a very unique way. You see this combi behind me. The young men, can do dialogues here, and they are also doing the dialogues outside this combi. Each time they see this combi moving within the college environment, they see it as a symbol of young men's pride, and they take it as a symbol of advocacy for positive programs that promote female students' participation. And Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences is so proud to be part of this project, which so far has promoted positive participation from the male students, especially in as far as the access to HIV services is concerned, the promotion of gender-based violence-free environment is concerned, as well as the improved access to contraception.
Time of the year where we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now this is an international campaign that runs from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. Now this campaign is there so that we eliminate violence against women and girls, and I hope that you guys are excited. I hope that you're joining the movement. We can prevent gender-based violence against women. Remember to tell a friend, your communities, your friends, your families. Our voices will be heard, our message will be amplified. Be sure to participate in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Last year, 10 universities from across Zimbabwe locked horns in a game of minds under the Speak and Solve Initiative SASSI debate.
Welcome to the Speak and Solve Initiative Universities debate.
Do you understand the fundamental basis of availing condoms in prisons, and do you agree with it?
The fundamental basis of providing condoms in prisons is to reduce the new HIV infections, and we're saying that it is not the only way that we can do that, and it is not the first step that we need to take, because some of those Zimbabwean prisoners are not educated as to how to use those condoms, and probably they don't even know how they can help them. Pardon?
How are condoms not reactive?
I have to say that this coveted award is being awarded only the second time in its existence, because this is the second year that this debate has been held. You may want to know that the inaugural winners of this lovely trophy were Harare Institute of Technology, and retaining it, congratulations. Come forward.
Will the Harare Institute of Technology be the winners again this year? Will they defend their trophy?
My name is Leo Munyono from Say What, Manicaland. I'm here today under the Action for Choice project, where we have young men under the Mugota platform. They've been doing dialogues during this event, and they've been talking to young men of their age, talking about different issues of sexual and reproductive health. We are emphasizing that young men, male students, are partners and supporters for young women or female students to access sexual and reproductive health services. These dialogues are meant to promote positive choices amongst young men. We are especially saying young men should not be perpetrators of sexual harassment. Young men should not be perpetrators of gender-based violence within the college environment. So we are saying young men should be supporters for female students. Young men should help in creating a conducive environment where female students are comfortable and safe to access sexual and reproductive health services. The dialogues have been taking place in a very unique way. You see this combi behind me. The young men, can do dialogues here, and they are also doing the dialogues outside this combi. Each time they see this combi moving within the college environment, they see it as a symbol of young men's pride, and they take it as a symbol of advocacy for positive programs that promote female students' participation. And Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences is so proud to be part of this project, which so far has promoted positive participation from the male students, especially in as far as the access to HIV services is concerned, the promotion of gender-based violence-free environment is concerned, as well as the improved access to contraception.
where we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now, this is an international campaign that runs from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. Now, this campaign is there so that we eliminate violence against women and girls, and I hope that you guys are excited. I hope that you're joining the movement. We can prevent gender-based violence against women. Remember to tell a friend, your communities, your friends, your families. Our voices will be heard. Our message will be amplified. Be sure to participate in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
SAYWAT has taken itself to implement the SASA Together project in partnership with the UN Women and several other partners that are working on it. The project has benefited the different communities we're working with, particularly Hopley community, because of its main focus with the aim of addressing gender-based violence within communities. SAYWAT makes it its mandate to ensure that young people are served with correct and consistent information and also are linked to services within the communities that they are in. That's the major thrust as well that the project focuses on.
The SASA is a methodology that seeks to transform gender norms, and it is based on the understanding that men's power over women is the root cause of GBV. And we've seen that as long as GBV is rife in a community or in a household, it becomes difficult for household members, particularly women and girls, to then participate in other areas of life. We're looking at women participating in economic activities, participating in politics,
Certainly, we've made you wait long enough. Well, you shall wait not much longer, because now we're at the business end of things in round two. Of course, the first motion that I shall have is, in cases of ineffective or non-existent mental health support, this House would make tertiary institutions liable for student suicides. Here to debate this motion, I have Midlands State University and the Chinhoyi University of Technology. I'm your debate master. My name is Robert Mkondiwa here on Zim Papers Television Network. But in case you missed out on round one, I shall ask yet again my teams to introduce themselves your name, the institution you're representing, and of course, the program towards which you are studying. I shall start with the gentleman to my right.
Good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Trevor Kabudura from Chino University of Technology, studying supply chain management.
Thank you, Trevor. Now, the lady.
Good afternoon. My name is Shama Al-Njovo at the Chino University of Technology, studying food science and technology.
Thank you. And now I will beckon the gentleman in the hat, the fedora, to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paxton Nakwakwilo, and I'm from Midlands Saint University, studying law.
The gentleman in the fedora, Paxton, he is. And finally, the lady.
Good afternoon. My name is Nomakawe Ngwenya at Midlands State University, studying history and international studies.
Nomakawe Ngwenya. Thank you. Now, yet again, I shall read the motion that they shall be battling over. Now, in cases of ineffective or non-existent mental health support, this House would make tertiary institutions liable for student suicides. In cases of ineffective or non-existent mental health support, this House would make tertiary institutions liable for student suicides. Now, before we start, I shall briefly run down yet again for your benefit and indeed for the benefit of my two teams here, how we shall be tackling this battle. The affirmative shall open for 3 minutes, followed by the opposers, who shall cross-examine for 1 minute. The opposers will then get an opportunity to open for 3 minutes, and the affirmative will cross-examine for 1 minute. The opposers will get 2 minutes to offer us their rebuttal, while the affirmative will also have their 2 minutes to offer us their rebuttal. The opposers will get 1 minute and 30 seconds to close. And finally, the affirmative will also get 1 minute and 30 seconds to close. It shall be a battle until the end, because ultimately we want to see who wins the battle of the universities. 4 have fallen by the wayside, 6 are battling to go through. I will give you a bit of trivia right at the end of this, something that might interest all of us and indeed the two teams that are up here with us. Affirmative. You have 3 minutes to open, and your 3 minutes to open start now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion we are debating now says this House would make tertiary institutions liable for student suicide. What we are saying is suicide is once taking his or her own life, while tertiary institutions are higher education schools. Now, 3/4 of a child's life is in the hands of an institution. Like if you compare the days that a child spends at home and at the institution takes more part of our lives. So institutions should then employ proper counseling facilities that there's maximum confidentiality that can be offered to a child through counseling. Like for example, we have counselors who are so confidential when you're in there, but then the moment you leave, they'll drink tea with your problems. Now, again, once leaving that, we are saying that institutions should again be held liable for student suicides because of the lack of full support of social activities. Social activities such as proper gymnasiums for the boys and proper sporting activities for the girls. We can't all be singing the song of lecturers all day long without refreshing. Kids are overstressed nowadays due to packed timetables where we start our lectures at 7 a.m. and at 8 p.m. There is no time to refresh or enjoy our social lives, as we spend most of our time in a classroom packed with other 300 people. Now, suicide is a mental case, is a case of the mind. So this implies that universities should cater for funds to start awareness campaigns or mental health campaigns that seek to better the mindset of a child. What am I saying? I'm saying that instead of just doing campaigns of condomize, we should also employ these mental health campaigns where we get to express ourselves in a way that relieves the stress from our mind. Again, institutions should also cater for neutral health facilities, since abortion is again another means or another reason why students commit suicide. Like for example, in 2019, 2 nursed girls committed suicide due to a lack of abortion facilities. If then abortion is the main cause of suicide for girls, why then can they open neutral health facilities that are willing to defy the law in a way that benefits the child? We can't continue losing souls because of suicide. As one life matters, imagine one well-educated mind. It has a huge impact on the economy. Again, the beliefs of our institutions, for example, ZEGU, Zimbabwe ZEGU Guti University, they have a Christian mindset where no sex before marriage, no drinking beers. How then can a child express themselves in a way that they want? If I'm not allowed to drink alcohol, how then can I express myself or relieve the stress around my mind? Allow me to be me and do me to the best. Allow me to have sex and do it to the best, because it's a way of me relieving stress. So we stand firm with the motion that institutions should indeed be made liable for student suicides, because they are the ones who are responsible for our lives the moment we leave our parents and go into their hands. Yes, we are adults, we understand, but then at least offer us some help to some certain extent, because in our adulthood we are still growing adults, meaning we are still learning. Offer us centers and professional services that can build us to being better people instead of people that grow up to commit suicide. One life matters. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case.
Well, we will allow you to have sex indeed, because it seems quite a priority indeed. Well, opposers, you have 1 minute to cross-examine. Your 1 minute starts now.
When you talk about liability, what then do you want the institution to, what metrics are you going to use to say we're going to hold this institution liable?
The metrics are, we look at the causes of the suicide and how the institution could have made everything better.
Okay. So when you hold the institution liable, what structures are you then going to install to make that it doesn't affect the efficiency of the institution?
Full funding for, like I said, social activities and counseling facilities that the kids can remove the mental health or the mental illness of suicide.
So are you saying only students that, not students who do not participate in, only students that do not participate in sports commit suicide?
I'm saying that all students participate in what they want, but then however universities are lacking to fund all full social activities. We can't only base social activity on only sports. They should also cater for clubs, societies, culturals, so that each and every student is where they belong and how.
Cool. Would we rather not invest that money in buildings, proper structures that ensure that these mental health issues are dealt with?
That shows that you were not listening to me, because I said that money should be used for structures like professional counseling.
Cool.
Time. So, cool. Opposers, you have 3 minutes to give us your opening, and those 3 minutes start now.
Pano, if you judge a fish by its ability to run on a racetrack, that fish will spend the rest of its life thinking it's a failure. Let's not judge institutions by their ability to deal with suicides, because institutions, their core business, their center of learning and innovation and whatever that comes at institutions, not mental hospitals. If individuals have got issues that are coming and that they need to be addressed, they ought to visit mental hospitals and clinics and facilities that are professionally designed to do these things. We think when you then come and then try to put liability on institutions by their inability to deal with somebody who is going through a mental breakdown, we're then misjudging institutions. Let's judge institutions because they're producing poor graduates. Then we can then start talking of liability, not by their inability to deal with these issues, right? So how does liability accrue? When liability accrues, we talk about a direct causal link that you need to then justify to say the reason why this person committed suicide is because of this institution. We think we have done zero to then justify on where there's a causal link to then say, look, the reason why this person commits suicide is because they're at Midland State University and there's no clinic at Midland State University. You have done nothing towards that. So we think still you haven't justified why then that happens, because even in developed countries like the United States of America, you still find that there are individuals who commit suicide even when they have all these structures, because when you talk of suicide, it's more of a mental issue, and when you talk of suicide, it's more of a personal issue again, rather than this of a structural issue. We think, yes, structures are required and are needed for those that actually think they actually need the counseling, but we think 9 out of 10 instances where there's abortion, where there's suicide, it doesn't have anything to do with the structures in and themselves, right? So secondly, also, we also think that even if you try and make structures an important issue, right, we think the solution is not to punish these institutions, because 9 out of 10 times when institutions don't create these structures, is simply because they can't afford to create these structures. We think punishing them does then not solve the problem, but it still brings a bigger problem, because whatever punishment that you might want to bring, if you want to arrest them and make them shut down, people are going home. If you want to make them pay a fine, they still can't afford to pay that fine. So we think the best solution is not to punish these institutions, but is to identify them and then give them means to create these institutions. You give them mental hospitals, you give them these sporting funds that you so-called want to give them. So we think that from our side of the house, then we then better protect the best interests of these individuals who are then suffering or who are then going through a mental breakdown, because we still don't see how, you still don't even do any justification to then tell us that in the event that you want to hold them liable, how are you you going to punish them? Are you going to make them pay a fine? Are you going to make them shut down? But either way, it still brings us back to zero, to where to the problem, because these institutions, either way, are still going to suffer the same predicament that they were in. We think if you want mental hospitals, or if you want to solve the issue of suicide, if it's a structural issue like you want to bring it, right, we think the best solution is to then fund these institutions. You fund them, you give them funding. Or if you don't trust them, you think they'll spend the money on personal vehicles or whatever that you think, you still go there and build structures. For example, like how SEWAT has been doing in building resource centers, because they identified that tertiary institutions are struggling to build structures that actually deal with mental health issues. So the best solution is not to take these universities to death, but the best solution is to fund, inject capital, and then build this, and then build structures like you so-called want them to do. But either way, your burden still comes to on how then are you going to justify liability, because there's no causal link.
Is time. Affirmative, you have 1 minute to cross-examine, and that 1 minute starts now.
Sam, you mentioned that it is important for we should hold. You mentioned that these institutions we're supposed to hold them liable for producing graduates. Don't you think that producing those graduates is connected to a mental health of an individual?
How?
That's my question to you. Don't you think that it is connected to the mental health of an individual?
Because the mental health of an individual is more of like a clinical matter or a hospital matter. It doesn't have anything to do with the classroom. If you think it's coming from the classroom, it's not the burden of the university to deal with your depression. It's the burden of trained professionals to deal with that.
And then by saying that we need to fund these institutions with funds to develop helpful structures for those students, are you agreeing that ineffective and non-existent mental health support is actually a cause of student suicides by those tertiary
If you're listening carefully, that was an even if in the event that you think it's important, we still don't think punishing them is the solution.
And time. 2 minutes for the opposers to give us a rebuttal, and those 2 minutes start now.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, a psychiatrist, Bernard Muriwa, once said, the biggest cause of suicide is depression. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are advocating for as the affirmative side is that, as the topic has actually pointed out, that ineffective and in the cases of ineffective and non-existent mental health supports, ladies and gentlemen, we're saying that even as these young adults are still growing into adults, they need these mental health supports. They need to have someone to actually lean on when they're in their depressed state. They need someone to go and talk to when they're in their state of a low key, ladies and gentlemen. They need these mental health supports to be developed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that these institutions, most of the time that the students spend is at their institutions rather than at their homes. Thus, these institutions need to provide a safe environment for the students to learn, for the students to develop. Team Non-Affirmative did mention that we have to hold the universities liable, the tertiary institutions liable of producing graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, to produce graduates at the end of the day, we need people who are healthy mentally, who are going to go to their lessons, who are going to go to their lectures, ladies and gentlemen, with a sound mind and sit down and understand what they are learning so that they can actually perform it, they can actually use it for the better, ladies and gentlemen. And we are also saying that these institutions, ladies and gentlemen, they need to provide these students with a backup. Somebody doesn't need to go out there and look for somewhere else, causing even more stress on the person. We need to find a way to actually provide a better solution to these students and make sure that they are not even overburdened by school, because there are a lot of stresses and pressures when you're at these tertiary institutions. There's school, there's bullying, there's trying to live up to the status. Ladies and gentlemen, they need somewhere, a shoulder to lean on in this time.
We have time. Next rebuttal will last 2 minutes, and it starts now.
Panel, we think that the reason why there's an age on which you should go to university, and the age is that it starts from 18, is because we think that you are mentally capacitated to listen to the lessons that are held in university. We think that you are mentally strong to withstand any cyberbullying, any peer pressure whatsoever. We think that at the end of the day, it falls upon the individual to then say, you know what, I came home from Zaraban and I wanted then to fulfill a status. And not because I wanted to fulfill a status and I failed, I want to commit suicide. I think that the problem then is the society. It goes back to the society panel. So 3 things that they bring from their argument. 1, they say, these universities should provide facilities such as sports gymnasiums, right? Paxton mentioned in his argument panel that we think that it is taking away core business. We think that the university, the reason why the university is there is right for education. This is why you're studying psychology, so that you're mentally able to deal with psychological issues panel. So we think that once we say, okay, we're going to hold these universities liable, we think that we're then taking away the attention from the major core business panel. So we would rather funding go on making sure that the structures that are built to make sure that it is now your right to say, no, I want to go to a mental health clinic. So we think that the government would rather put a funding on structures like Paxton mentioned, that say what is introducing structures where you can go and relieve yourself, go and have sex, but we don't think that the university should regulate how you have sex so that you're mentally able. Another thing with they mentioned panel is that they don't mention how they're going to hold these universities liable. They don't mention how, okay, if we find that, sure, under extinguishing factors, the university did really contribute to this. They don't mention how these universities are going to pay. They don't give us a solution to that. They don't tell us how the university is going to pay $5 or $10. And even if they come and try and give us that argument, we think that it is taxing to the university. We think that university has major business to actually deal with. We think that it will incur debt. We think that panel, the reason why there are so few lecturers in universities is because university cannot afford. So if we're going to tax them, we're making the burden on the university again, because it then comes back to the university.
Opposers, I will be with you now, asking the opposers to close in 1 minute and 30 seconds. And that 1 minute and 30 seconds starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the non-affirmative side failed to really show how universities should be held accountable. They say that we can't hold these institutions because all they are liable to is producing graduates. Mental health is also part of learning. How can I learn to the most effective way when I'm depressed? You fail to highlight that in your context. You also say that funding will help these universities make structures. Are you aware that these funds are actually being used to buy cars for lecturers who are being promoted from doctor to professor? Or the funding, that same fund again will just come and buy another car for the next new professor, since these people are always learning and upgrading each and every day. Again, the non-affirmative side failed to really grasp how surveys has been conducted to really show that, yes, universities are the major causes of suicide. Yes, I'm in a doubt. They said when you go to university and adult, not everyone studying psychology. Yes, I'm in a doubt. I also need help as an adult. I'm still a growing adult. I'm not yet a fully developed adult. I'm not 20 years old. I'm 20. Allow me to access help when I need a shoulder to cry on. Allow me to visit facilities that can offer me counseling each and every time that I want. They also fail to highlight this, that punishment enforces the impact that we are spreading, that you should be held accountable for your suicides. How? When universities are punished for these suicide cases, there will be a reduction in the number of suicides. Instead of having 2 suicides at one institution, we have 0 to none. Or maybe 0. 0 is what we want. Because punishment enforces the law, which is why a child was beaten each and every time when they were growing up. One mistake, you get beaten. The next moment, before you do it, you remember that beating. Beating and punishment are also a way of enforcing the law. Ladies and gentlemen.
And so is time. Time is also a way of enforcing the law, that we may stick within a certain confine. And 1 minute, 30 seconds for the final closing in this motion begins now.
Panel, to show that we are making sense, let's take them at their best. They argue to say, look, there's a need to change structures, but they failed, number one. They failed to show the metrics for punishment. How are you going to punish these universities? They failed to show that. They also failed to bring a logic conclusion gap on when you punish them, how they automatically have these structures tomorrow morning. They failed to explain that. Secondly, also, they also gave us zero analysis on how, even assuming you have a punishment that is in place, how they need to deal with the problem at hand. Because the problem is, let's assume that indeed there's a structural problem that exists. You still did nothing to then explain, to say, when we punish you or when we make you pay a fine, you're going to wake up tomorrow with these things, which is why we are particularly against your arguments, and we're particularly against you because you failed to then establish these things. Right? From outside of the house, what do you then get? We then told you on how for liability to accrue, you then have to show a direct link, and you still did nothing to then show us how then there's a direct link between teaching institutions which are supposed to educate you and make sure you have a degree, and then you committing suicide. There's zero analysis in relation to that. You still failed on that side of the house. Right? So secondly, also you also failed to establish then on, you also failed to engage on how then institutions then at the end of the day, you also failed to then tell us that institutions at the end of the day, even if you have to punish them, they can then wake up the next morning affording. We told you from outside of that the best solution is not to tax these universities, but the best solution is to maybe either educate, maybe they don't know, you educate them that there's a need to have these facilities, or secondly, you give them the funding to establish these facilities, because as long as you don't address the problem at the core, you will still suffer the same problem tomorrow, day after day. Let's address the problem.
Time. So, as we exhaust this motion, we are not only focusing on you here on the Zim Papers television network live streaming page, but also on our sponsors. As you know, this is proudly sponsored by Say What, of course, with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe and, of course, from the United Nations Population Fund. But we're also following you there on the Say What page. We see your contributions: Jacob Carlton, Pretty KCK, Domisile Dube, Munashe Maka. Thank you so much for following us on that platform as well. And certainly we're reaching far and wide because we are embracing this new world, this brave new world in which we live, this virtual world. And we're bringing you this very, very scintillating debate process because this is what you've been waiting for. Today is the 23rd. It's been quite a marathon, and I think now we're on the sprint end. Coming up soon, we'll have the University of Zimbabwe pitted against Gwanda State University. It's hot right now. It's going to keep getting hotter and hotter. Don't go away. We've got that beautiful, beautiful debate that we're anticipating coming up next.
Time of the year where we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now, this is an international campaign that runs from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. Now, this campaign is there so that we eliminate violence against women and girls, and I hope that you guys are excited. I hope that you're joining the movement. We can prevent gender-based violence against women. Remember to tell a friend, your communities, your friends, your families. Our voices will be heard. Our message will be amplified. Be sure to participate in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
All right, a rather intense beginning to the second round there, and I am joined by representatives of the Midland State University, yes? And, okay, how do you think that round went? Go wow. Do you agree?
I do agree. It was tense.
It was tense. Do you think you were able to articulate yourselves well?
We tried, but it wasn't our best.
All right. Now we're heading towards 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I just want to pick your brains a little bit. What do you think is the biggest cause of GBV in our society today?
I think the biggest cause of GBV is that men are not educated. I think it's because patriarchy has existed for so long. Men think they have the right over a woman's body. So I think that's the greatest cause, and it hasn't been dealt with. The government is not doing anything to ensure that there are stringent measures on perpetrators of gender-based violence. So I think that's the biggest cause.
All right, very interesting thoughts. Yours?
I think I concur with that because you'd find that a lot of resources have been pumped into educating women on how to empower themselves, but nothing is being taught to men on how to handle an empowered woman. So I think they also ought to balance the resources that is at the same time when you're teaching a girl to be empowered, teach the male child how to handle an empowered woman.
All right. Okay. So that's a very interesting perspective. One says that the men are not educated enough on how to deal with an empowered woman, and the other says we need to start making sure we balance both sides of the coins. What do you think? Do you think that they're onto something? Please just drop a comment and let us know your thoughts. Of course, if you're following this, it's at ZTN News on Twitter and Zim Papers TV network on Facebook, as well as the Say What page on Facebook as well. What do you think about what they just said, especially in relation to the main cause of GBV in our society today? Thank you.
Welcome back. It's the second debate of round 2. And this one will pit the University of Zimbabwe and Gwanda State University. Very interesting topics we've been tackling here today. Topics that touch our hearts the most, that are very close to our humanity and our humanness. And certainly going forward, you continue to have those thought-provoking talks that we shall be giving you. Now, before I introduce the motion, I'm going to ask for the benefit of those who didn't have the privilege of following us from the absolute get-go, so that we know the teams that we have up here, at least what they're reading towards and the institutions that they represent. I shall start with the gentleman immediately to my right, your name, the institution you represent, and the program towards which you're reading.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony. I am a third-year student at the University of Zimbabwe, and I'm studying public administration.
Anthony, now the lady.
Hello, my name is Nadia Mtisi, and I'm a second-year student studying law at the University of Zimbabwe.
Yes, Mtisi, welcome back. Congratulations for making it this far. And the gentleman to my immediate left.
Phil Shonda is the name, undertaking engineering courses in the Department of Metallurgy at Gwanda State University, level Part 3.
Gwanda State University, well represented. And then finally, the lady.
And I'm Blessings Movie, doing mining engineering year 3-1.
Certainly. And also, before I give you the motion, I'm going to run down again for your benefit and the benefit of those who are watching how this is going to flow. The affirmative will open for 3 minutes, followed by opposers who shall cross-examine for 1 minute. Opposers then get their 3 minutes to open, whilst the affirmative cross-examine for 1 minute as well. The opposers will then give us a rebuttal 2 minutes long, and the affirmative will then give us their rebuttal for 2 minutes as well. The opposers will then close in 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then the affirmative will then close in also 1 minute and 30 seconds. Our adjudicators today are doing a sterling job. They are Vanessa Amidu, Sylvester Munyaradzi Nyamatendedza, and Ngobile Dube, the chief adjudicator. And they're going to be looking absolutely closely at this debate as we go through, because we want only the best of the best to remain standing. Will it be your team? Well, your guess at the moment is as good as mine. Your motion. This House would castrate all convicted male rapists. This House would castrate all convicted male rapists. The affirmative, you have 3 minutes to open, and that 3 minutes starts now.
Panel, globally there is a war that exists against women's bodies, and I think for us to be able to tackle rape culture, we need an effective and an urgent solution. So briefly, let me give context and let me define the type of castration that we're talking about. Panel, we're talking about chemical castration, the process of injecting a chemical in a male perpetrator's body so as to weaken their testosterone levels, that is making them less likely to rape women, right? So we think that it's important and expedient and crucial to weaken the perpetrator if we're going to effectively deal with rape culture in our society. First of all, let's talk about the psyche of a perpetrator. For you to prey on someone, rape them, and even go to an extent of killing them, you have to assume superiority over them. So we're talking about power dynamics. It's therefore crucial for us to weaken the perpetrator so as to make sure that the women are safe within our society particularly. Let's then frame the debate. The debate is about how can we best deal with rape culture in a patriarchal society. How can we best come up with a solution to address that issue? First of all, we think that the criminal justice system is not doing enough, because we think that rape culture is something that is pervasive within prisons and outside prisons. So a rapist outside prison, when you get into the prison system, rape culture also exists. So we think that it perfects the craft itself. It's not doing enough so as to protect the perpetrators, right? So also we talk about how rape leaves a permanent scar in the lives of these women, particularly in states where abortion is even difficult to access. Talk about how you will give birth to a child of rape. That's a permanent scar, and already that's a narrative that continues till you die. So panel, we think that there is a global war that exists against women's bodies that should be stopped, and we think that when we're weakening the perpetrator by injecting this chemical so as to lower their testosterone levels, we're better able to protect our perpetrators. But most importantly, we think that we also think that we create a world or environment where rape victims are most likely forthcoming. Earlier on, I talked about power dynamics and how it's very, very important for us to weaken the perpetrator. Nowadays, panel, it's very difficult for women that have been raped or that have survived rape to come forth and talk about how they've been raped, particularly because a patriarchal society still strengthens the perpetrator. The perpetrator is still powerful in prison and out of prison, which makes it hard for women to be forthcoming in terms of how they've been raped and abused. But at a point where we can clearly see that the perpetrator is weak, we think that women can be forthcoming and talk about how they can be raped. And I think this is literally victory for women, and therefore they can accept their sexuality. They can no longer be ashamed of their sexuality. They can be pervasive and they can thrive, and I mean so, in this patriarchal society. So this is the debate today. How can we best address rape culture in a patriarchal society and in a criminal justice system that seems to be perpetuating the same culture within and outside justice? And we think that when we castrate these men, we do justice. With that, we're proud to propose. Yeah.
Well, with 7 minutes, 7 seconds rather, that you have ceded, you have made your opening case, and opposers, you can cross-examine for 1 minute, which starts now.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a yes or no question. Are you purporting that after they've served their sentence, they should take pills for the rest of their lives?
No, you didn't understand the motion. When they are convicted, we're not talking about double sentence. When they are
yes
convicted,
or no question.
they are guilty of rape, they are then injected the chemical. That's what the motion is about.
How long does this chemical, how long does it take to wear off?
I mean, this is not part of the debate. The question is, should we do it or not?
What are we debating in the first place? I'm asking you a yes or no question. You were talking about chemical castration.
Okay.
A yes or no answer. Do you purport that we should continue with this castration, with this chemical castration you have clearly stated?
I think we should continue to protect women that continue to die every day.
You are deviating from my question. Do you purport that they should take it for life? Are there any studies that have been done?
Well, it is time, apparently. And there are no studies that have been done about time. Time will just humble you. Now, opposers, you have 3 minutes to give us your opening, and that 3 minutes begins now.
An eye for an eye walks the whole country blind. Hence, a second chance is necessary. Castration, yes, can be the injection of a chemical in the body to reduce the production of the testosterone hormone, which will reduce the urge and the drive for a male person to have sex. It is absolutely cruel, absurd, evil, and dehumanizing to even think castration is the only solution to stopping male people from raping women. Not only will castration cause physical health negative side effects, but it also has mental side effects which are not even going to help anyone benefit. Why not take both the victim and the offender to the psychiatrist and the mental health department to deal with them? And two wrongs don't make a right. And I will say that this person who's going to castrate the male to stop raping the women, how is he going to deal with that trauma also? What we'll be doing if we are saying let's castrate male people who are raping women so that they do not continue doing it, we're not doing anything, but we're just adding fuel to the fire and pretending we're eliminating a problem when we're actually introducing one. Because right from the word start, what's causing these male people to rape women is not because they have the urge to have sex with women or violate their human rights, but it all begins from their minds when they are maybe whatever they see when they are growing up. So it's a mental issue which would drive it into a physical issue. I'll also say, would you cut someone's hand off after they stole something? No, you wouldn't. So what we're saying is, do not castrate male convicts because you think it's the only solution or best solution. But there are much more better alternatives which will even prove to be much more effective than castrating them. Thank you.
You ceded 54 seconds to me, but you claim you've stated your case. And now the 1 minute of cross-examination starts now.
All right, Blessings. What measure can be best employed to curb gender-based violence, particularly rape?
We can build better mental health care infrastructures because the issue is about the mind.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you believe that status quo has managed to protect women from rape?
Yes, it has.
All right. Is stealing the same as rape? Stealing sugar or stealing an apple the same as raping someone?
I never said it's the same, and it's not the same.
But you compared
it. Example.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
With 30 seconds to go, you have ceded your time. Opposers, you will have 2 minutes to offer us your rebuttal, and that 2 minutes, well, that starts now.
Okay, since the affirmative side is refused, rather, that they are purporting that they are for the right that males should be chemically castrated. I will just go straight to my point. You know, castration violates the reproductive rights of a man, despite the crime. Isn't it our motion is saying a convict? Why should we castrate a convict? We have judged the person. Why are we further giving him more punishment when he's a convict? Secondly, correctional services, they are there for that. The issue is in the mind, not suppressing something. At the end of the day, we are not taking care of the issue. The issue is not about their desires, but what's causing their desires. If now we deprive them of their desires, we are depriving them of their rights. They need to have these rights, but at the end of the day, they need to be held accountable for their actions. Now, how do you hold someone accountable for their actions? It starts from their thinking. They need to think right. We don't need to suppress people. At the end of the day, everyone who's stolen, are we saying we're going to induce a chemical where they are not supposed to use their hands? Because at the end of the day, they're going to think about stealing. So why not deal with the action at hand? Why not deal with the problem, which is the mind? It's a huge misconception about castration, that it completely removes their desire. That desire will always be there. When you suppress the chemicals in someone's body, there's now an imbalance in how they work, in how they function. So at the end of the day, we are not doing any justice to the person. We are further causing harm. We are supposed to help the person. It's a correctional service. It's there to correct the problems they face. It's there to correct them, not to further harm them. Why are we inducing chemical castration when yet we are supposed to correct their actions? We are supposed to help them. So I believe that the affirmative need to have a better argument, and they also need to answer questions.
You also need time, which I don't have at the moment. An affirmative rebuttal worth 2 minutes starts now.
All right, panel. Team University of Zimbabwe wins this debate on one sole issue, which is basically that side non-affirmative comes here and we ask them a question saying, do you believe status quo has managed to deal with the issue of rape effectively? And then they say yes. Then we tell you about Uyinene Mretswana, right? We tell you about gender-based violence happening in Turkey and happening in South Africa, where women have been speaking to government saying that not enough is being done to protect women. At the point where they stand here and they begin to say, yes, status quo is doing enough, we think we regret this particular debate altogether, and we think that they lose this particular debate today, right? And then secondly, panel, they come and then they tell us about how, oh my gosh, let's tackle the mind because everything begins in the mind. So we think that's the best argument that they put forward in today's debate, and we think that Tony came here and actively addressed it, which was Tony talking to you about how when you castrate somebody or when you castrate an individual, right, we're trying to deal with power dynamics, which is the basic idea that men or men who rape, right, basically believe that they're more powerful than women and believe that women are objects. At the point where we castrate a man, we then change the power dynamics that are happening in his mind, where he begins to feel disempowered, where he is disempowered to an extent of not wanting to rape again, or where we deter them, right? So panel, we think that at the point where we tell you as side affirmative that the status quo has not worked, we think that there have been sentences that have been put in place of about 14 to 15 years, but still men are raping women and a lot of GBVs happening around the world, right? We think that we need to then come with a hardline stance that is then going to be able to tackle this effectively within our particular society, right? Panel, we think that what our side non-affirmative tries to bring today is a soft line stance that is not going to tackle the issue effectively. Why is the soft line stance not going to tackle the issue effectively? Because they want to compare rape to something like stealing. They came here and they said, oh my gosh, if someone steals, let's not cut their hand off. Would you do that? And we think we regret that particular point, right? So panel, what do we come to speak about from side affirmative? Side affirmative comes to speak to you about this idea of deterrence. At the point where we take men and we disempower them, or we tackle power dynamics, we think that we actively protect women in our society. We think that the side that wins this particular debate today is a side that manages to protect women, not a side that denies what is happening in status quo. Panel, we tell you to remember Uyinene Mretswana. We ask you to remember the women of Southern Africa who are being harassed every single day. We beg to
Oh my gosh, it's time. Oh my gosh. Anyway, to sum things up, opposers close for us in 1 minute and 30 seconds rather, which starts now.
The affirmative side believes that we can certainly wake up in a world where women will never be sexually harassed ever again. This is a process. It needs patience. And you think castrating males who are raping women is the solution? How irradical is that? That is like animalistic behavior. We'll be the same as the animals. So now you want to wipe half of the population because these men will not be able to actually give birth to children, because you have actually removed that hormone which is producing the testosterone, which will later help them also have children. So now we're saying the sins that they've committed should also be suffered by the future children to come who will not be there because their fathers have committed a crime. What if it's your father who has raped another woman? Would you be okay with you having him castrated? When there's a better solution to dealing with that issue? And yes, the state has helped women who are being sexually harassed. They have helped the situation improve, and it's going to take time. But castration is never a solution. It will never be a solution, and it's impractical, and it's completely absurd to even think that it would ever work. I would also want to say that castration is going to reduce both physical and it's going to cause both physical and mental harm to the human, and therefore it should never be done. And I'll end this by saying 2 wrongs will never make a right.
Time. Affirmative will close for us in 1 minute and 30 seconds, and that starts now.
Okay, panel, when we talked about the agency, we honestly presumed, or we thought that side opposition would understand the seriousness of this issue. Panel, this is a serious debate. Their only concern is that perpetrators won't get an erection. My concern is, my dear Nadia, moving out of this venue might become a rap statistic. Equate that to the death of Guinea. Equate that to the death of thousands of South Africans, of women that have been losing their lives to sexual assault on a daily basis. I mean, I am tired of a society that does not want to bring men to account. As a man, I'm calling myself out on that as well. But anyways, what do we get in this debate? We get the idea that two wrongs don't make a right, so protect the perpetrator right. We also get the idea that no, we need to protect the rights of people that rape women. We also need, we also get zero alternatives as to what then can we better do to address the issue of rape culture, so they deviate from the motion. What do you get? Sophisticated analysis on power dynamics, the agency of the matter, proper framing of the debate, pragmatism, and also how the criminal justice system has failed, hence justifying the need to implement the policy that we're vying for in this present debate. And panel, we have never ever been so proud to propose. Yeah.
With 20 seconds on the clock, they have ceded their time to me. Very intriguing debate there that we had. The second in round 2, of course. We've lost 4 teams in the first round, and we're going to lose quite a couple going forward as we head into the grand finale. This was absolutely intriguing as we now await the next debate, and that shall be coming absolutely soon. So don't go away. Stay tuned. This is Zim Papers Television Network.
My name is Leo Munyono from Say What, Manicaland. I'm here today under the Action for Choice project, where we have young men under the Mugota platform. They've been doing dialogues during this event, and they've been talking to young men of their age, talking about different issues of sexual and reproductive health. We are emphasizing that young men, male students, are partners and supporters for young women or female students to access sexual and reproductive health services. These dialogues are meant to promote positive choices amongst young men. We are especially saying young men should not be perpetrators of sexual harassment. Young men should not be perpetrators of gender-based violence within the college environment. So we are saying young men should be supporters for female students. Young men should help in creating a conducive environment where female students are comfortable and safe to access sexual and reproductive health services. The dialogues have been taking place in a very unique way. You see this combi behind me. The young men, can do dialogues here, and they are also doing the dialogues outside this combi. Each time they see this combi moving within the college environment, they see it as a symbol of young men's pride, and they take it as a symbol of advocacy for positive programs that promote female students' participation. And Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences is so proud to be part of this project, which so far has promoted positive participation from the male students, especially in as far as the access to HIV services is concerned, the promotion of gender-based violence-free environment is concerned, as well as the improved access to contraception.
right, so joining me from the condomized table, of course, is SAI project coordinator who is Spiwe Dongo. Spiwe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Candice. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now tell us just a little bit about SAI before we go into detail about this particular project.
Okay, so SAI is a Norwegian organization, and SAI stands for Students and Academics International Assistance Fund. So this Norwegian organization is also made up of students who then support other students internationally with regards to various issues, academic freedom, inclusive campuses, student structures in terms of leadership. So SAI basically is a solidarity organization for students, the global community of students.
All right, now SAI has been very actively involved in this debate competition. Where do you come into all this universities competing against each other and debating? Where do you come in?
Okay, so SAI is the funding partner for the LEAD project. So these debates are being held under the project called LEAD, which stands for Leadership, Exploration, Advocacy and Development. So that's the project behind the debates. And if you look at LEAD, if you look at the leadership part, we are just strengthening the capacity of students to lead within their respective and various, constituencies, be it on campus, be it in a club, be it in a society. So we are just saying wherever you are, you must be able to lead. And it's not about being in front, but being where you are. If you're a debater, please demonstrate leadership in your debate issues. If you're a Rotaract member, demonstrate leadership. If you're an SRC member, demonstrate leadership. And we also want you to bring change, positive change. And then when you look at the exploration part, this is where also we come in, where we are saying structured inquiry. You are debating, you need to do research. You need to have your facts on the ground. You also need to do critical analysis. And then the advocacy part, you look at the topics that are being debated on cyberbullying, age of consent. And if you've been following the media, there's been a lot of talk about age of consent, and you are bringing these issues through debate to say, let's debate, let's gather all the facts around and see where we should go. And then the development part, we are saying, through leadership, through exploration, through advocacy, let's develop our countries, let's develop our colleges. So with the debate competitions, we are bringing both sides of issues to the young people, to our various audiences, and we are saying also get involved in the discussions and see what we do at colleges. Remember, these are strategically positioned students to do research, they are learning, they are doing their academics. So we also want to tap on that experience that they get in their universities as they do their academic degrees, to say, let's also bring these issues to light. And one thing that we do under the SAI project is also then promote inclusive campuses, where we are saying every student is important. And through these discussions, you will see that we try to touch a lot of issues that affect students, so that every student is covered. We are talking about the marginalized groups among students, the disabled, the female students. We're also bringing power to them to say, now we're actually demonstrating that young women and students can also lead, they can debate, and they can articulate issues. And I'm sure you have been following how the Girl Child has been performing in this debate.
All right, now as you speak about being able to lead regardless of which group you belong to as a student. Now, when we look at the trail of the train of debating patterns, this is the third one. How do you think that this competition has helped to improve students' abilities to articulate themselves, as well as to just conduct, proper research when it comes to things that they need to be in the know about?
Thank you for the question. I think I will respond with a demonstration. Look at one of the adjudicators. She started with us through the debate competitions, and now she's adjudicating. She's actually being able to then analyze, to say, after students have debated, how can we then move on, and the points and everything. So this is a clear demonstration of saying we are actually building the capacity of students to actually then also be at a higher level of going beyond debate and critically analyze the competition themselves. So we don't end here in Zimbabwe. Last year we took the debate students who participated under this project to Zambia, where they also participated in a regional debate competition, and they won. So Zimbabwe won the trophy. And I'm sure as we go, so we host what we call the Southern African Regional Students and Youth Conference, where we gather students from Zimbabwe Zimbabwe, and then we take them into the region with other students from Malawi, Zambia, South Africa, Mozambique, Botswana, Namibia. And then at that platform, that's where we also then see the results to say our students also able to articulate issues at a regional level. And I'm very proud of our debaters because they brought the trophy home, and hoping that next year as we go to Malawi, that's where the next regional conference is going to be. We're also going to have these debaters also then battling it with other, creme de la creme of the region.
All right. Thank you so much. Very encouraging. And of course, we are at the condomized table, but we have one more pair of universities going against each other as we finalize round 2 and move on to what should be the finals that will tell us who is the ultimate debater where it comes to our universities.
Well, yes, indeed, Candice. We are here in the studio with the last pair of universities, and this really is the last chance saloon where they get to drink the last glass, make their last orders, and because it is out of these 3 debates that we've heard that we're going to get those that will be in the grand finale and battle for this wonderful trophy that now stands proudly behind me. Twice in a row, from the inaugural to last year, it has been going to the Harare Institute of Technology. They had no technology to keep it this time, a third time around. They gave it up from the absolute get-go. The hard work, energy, and tireless dedication of making the absolutely tough decisions is in the hands of my adjudicators here. We have the chief adjudicator, Nqobile Dube. He's going to be leading his team to make sure that we get the best. And we also have on the adjudication team Sylvester Nyamatendedza, and he's also one of the people who's making the decisions to see who ultimately walks away with this. But finally, we've got Vanessa Amidu. Just to say, Vanessa was the person they were talking about when Candice was having that chat, because Vanessa is the one who is a symbol of capacity building. She started as somebody who was battling to also win honors. Today, she's making the decisions because she's learned enough, she knows the issues, and now is an absolute guru. Two universities left to go, and that is the National University of Science and Technology and the Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences. I will tell you that after this, we shall have the adjudicators deciding who makes it into the absolute grand finale. And in the meantime, if you think that perhaps your university has been chucked out even on round 1, don't despair, because maybe they may come through. We're going to be having a best of best motion, and of course I'm going to be having a bit of my hand there. So while the adjudicators are working out flat out to make sure that they give us the grand finale participants, we shall be getting at least one more debate before we get into the absolute grand finale. So don't go away, because perhaps the person that you were rooting for, the person who just went out by the wayside, may yet again just come through, and there's a lot of pride there for you as universities. Of course, as always, as we've been saying, this debate is brought to you by Say What, with the support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, the United Nations Population Fund, and SAI, the Students and Academics International Assistance Fund. You are the last, and we shall be deciding, certainly, perhaps you two may be going through, one of you may be going through, and this is the last chance saloon you're drinking from. All the best. Again, for the benefit of those who may have not watched either of you teams participate earlier on, I'm going to ask that you introduce yourselves. And I'll start, of course, by the lady to my immediate right. I want you to give me your name, your institution, and the program towards which you're reading.
My name is Jessica Mngube from Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences, currently studying psychology, and I'm in level 2-2.
Thank you. And now the gentleman beside.
Hello, my name is Nelson Banda, level 2-2 mining engineering at Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences.
Thank you. And the gentleman immediately to my left.
My name is Adin Mdare, and I'm from the National University of Science and Technology. I'm doing industrial manufacturing engineering, doing part 2-1.
Thank you. And finally, the lady.
Okay, I'm Nagasha Tadiwa from NAST, doing environmental science and health, part 2-1.
Well, thank you so much. And this is an opportunity to make it into the final. I shall give you a brief rundown yet again of how this is going to work, and also for the benefit of those who are just joining us from wherever it is that you are joining us. The affirmatives shall open for 3 minutes, and the opposers shall then get a minute to cross-exam. Opposers then open for 3 minutes, and the affirmative will also get a minute to cross-exam. Opposers then give us their rebuttal for 2 minutes, with the affirmative also then giving us their rebuttal for 2 minutes. And then finally, opposers will close in 1 minute and 30 seconds, and the affirmative will then wrap it up again in 1 minute and 30 seconds. There will be blood. National University of Science and Technology, Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences. The debate starts now with the affirmative opening for 3 minutes, and those 3 minutes, well, they start now.
Right. Before I divulge into the main course of my opening statement, people, be informed. Distributing contraceptives mean making available and making widely known. Which shop is selling TVs without a manual? We don't want trouble. Parents across the country do concur that levels of sexual activity among high school students and even those in primary schools is on the increase, as attested by the number of reported teen pregnancies and cases of sexually transmitted diseases. The Zimbabwe Demographic Health Survey, ZDHS, reports that 9 out of 10 girls aged 15 to 19 are sexually active, and that 2 out of 3 girls first had sex before the age of 15 with or without their consent. And therefore, this house will distribute contraceptives, condoms, emergency pills, loop, jadel, to mention but just a few. Young people express their sexuality as part of their development adulthood. It is not having sex that is a problem, but having unsafe sex. Refusing to distribute contraceptives would mean not moving with the times, ladies and gentlemen. Just because schools may not distribute or promote safe sex does not mean children will stop experimenting with sex. They are already exposed to sexual imagery and ideas of sex. So it is very imperative and necessary that these children are equipped with enough material to remain safe, because they are having sex, these children. I repeat, these children are having sex. Restricting distribution of contraceptives to primary and secondary school is not consistent with the age of consent. With the age of consent being 16 and with young people being able to vote at the age of 18, it does not make sense for stakeholders, including the affirmative, the non-affirmative in this very room, to have control on whether our children should access contraceptives right up until the age of 19, where they finish full-time schooling. The point is, a 17-year-old child and an 18-year-old child have the right to choose for themselves. The logic that we should not distribute contraceptives to primary and secondary schools because they are very young may sound very impressive, but it is the same logic that fails to control underage drinking, underage smoking, the watching of rated movies by those forbidden to do so. It is the same logic. It is the same poor parental logic that has seen a generation of children growing up divorced from the society. Let's stop deceiving ourselves, thinking children are safe out there. To do otherwise perpetuates the cycle of STIs and HIV and AIDS in our society, and it perpetuates the status quo of being able to do nothing about it. Thank you.
13 seconds on the clock. You have given us, of course, your remarks. Safe to say, yet again, that this is a very pertinent issue that we're dealing with, and this is something that is actually on our clock as a nation. As we say, this House would distribute contraceptives in primary and secondary schools. This is something that, of course, is absolutely topical. This House would distribute contraceptives in primary and secondary schools. Opposers, you've got a minute to cross-examine.
Okay, just to get your facts right, sir, what is the major problem which you are solving by distribution of condoms?
The major problem we are solving by distribution of contraceptives is the problem of the problem of HIV in children, and the problem of teenage pregnancies, to mention but just a few.
All right, sir. And what is the impact that is going to have on these young adults?
The impact that is going to be on the young adults is a positive impact, of course. Teenage pregnancies are going to be reduced. Thank you.
I want to assume that there will be definitely some negative impacts that will come, or maybe if there are none. However, what things have you put in place to do with the aftermath that may come after negative impacts arise?
I'm sorry, whatever the negative impacts, I'm sure those negative impacts do not outweigh the positive impact that is at hand today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Opposers, you have 3 minutes to give us your opening, and the 3 minutes start now.
So what the opening speaker from Manicaland does is basically comes and reads the news to us, right? He doesn't really give us anything to work to work with, but we'll try and work with the little that he gave us. If there are two things that I think we both agree in this debate, is the fact that there is a high sexual activities amongst young children, and secondly, they do admit, or rather do consider the fact that we are having high HIV and teenage pregnancies. But at the end of the day, they fail to, number one, show us the practicality of what they are proposing, or rather how we're going to go about it, right? Because all they talk about is shops, buying TVs and all that, but they really don't get to the matter of today. No, let us show you how we're going to work with this. So, like I said, if there are things that we agree on, is higher sexual activities among young adults. And we believe that distributing contraceptives, be it condoms, be it emergency pills in primary and high schools, definitely does not do the job. We believe that as a government, we rather take our funds and invest them in things to do with education. We believe that the same reason why we are having this debate is to allow, or rather to bridge a gap that already exists, which is discourse. We believe that the reason why you are not born and you grow up and go straight to work without education is the same reason that we're going to apply in this debate, right? Because we simply believe that for you to undergo certain things, you need to first know what you're doing, right? So what are you solving by putting condoms and emergency pills in their toilets? What are you saying to them? You fail to show us how at the end of the day that is going to solve the problem. And let us show you how we're going to solve that. So us as the opposition side, we are proposing that instead of the government wasting money, because all they are doing is they are saying the government has conceded to that. They failed to stop the prevalence of HIV. They failed to deal with teenage pregnancies. So all they are doing is leave it up to the kids. So they didn't actually show to us how distributing this, number one, will solve the things that are there, because it's still up to the children to decide whether to use these things, right? Another fact is that people who impregnate these young girls are adults, right? People who are definitely older than them. They fail to show to us how we solve that problem. What we suggest in this debate is if we groom everyone, right? If this is a 10-year program, in the first 10 years, we're still trying to find a balance. But we believe that by the end of the day, we believe that by the time our children grow up, they know the fundamentals and what to expect and what to do in regards to sex. We want to open engagement in generation. We want to open discourse in our society, because we believe that is the main issue at hand. What have we shown you in this debate? We have shown to you that education and discourse are the things that are needed to solve the problems at hand. We come and tell you that it is not because they are lacking emergency pills that teenagers are getting pregnant. It's not because there are condoms. There aren't condoms.
Time.
Thank you.
Affirmative. Your 1 minute of cross-examination starts now.
You stated that the solution there is to give these children education, right?
Yes.
So are you saying, since we've been giving these children enough education since I don't know how many years ago, our parents can even attest to that, has that stopped the number of children that are engaging into sexual activities in the primary and secondary education?
That is not a fact. The fact what we're talking about.
Thank you very much.
Say
I am continuing. The second question is, who said that these children are having sex with adults?
That is a fact. We all know that teenagers are not impregnated by other teenagers. It's definitely men
Whose
or older
fact
than
is that, sir?
According to the WHO.
Okay, thank you. I concede the time.
Okay. Opposers, you have 2 minutes to give us your rebuttal, and that 2 minutes starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot overemphasize the importance of discourse and the dissemination of information that has to do with sexual and reproductive health to children. However, let me move on to what my opposer said. He said that there is likely to be no negative impacts by implementing this, ladies and gentlemen. And I beg to differ, because there will be impacts. Ladies and gentlemen, we agree, I mean, we know that not all children are being involved in these sexual activities. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, those children who have been behaving well all along, they will be tempted, they will be eager to do experiments just because the contraceptives are now available at hand. And ladies and gentlemen, how will they deal with the aftermath? We have to take note that parents are those who are actually worried right now. By implementing this, ladies and gentlemen, we will have an effect of distress on those parents. Mental health issues will actually arise, and therefore we'll be creating another problem on top of the one you are trying to solve, ladies and gentlemen. Not to talk about parents only. Look at those children who will be indulging in those activities. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know of people who commit suicide after sexual relationships, after indulging in those sexual activities, which you are promoting, ladies and gentlemen. And has there been a research that has been done on the impact of these contraceptives on young children? Mind you, we are talking of people who are still in primary and secondary education. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not know. These children are still undergoing puberty. They are still developing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we affirm that contraceptives are only a short-term solution to what we have. Let the status quo remain and let contraceptives be distributed in healthcare institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. With 10 seconds on the time, you cede those to me. Your 2 minutes affirmative starts now.
My colleague mentioned that you can never sell a television to a person without a manual. Obviously, when we're distributing these contraceptives to these children, we are obviously giving them information how to use them, as he defined what distribution means. Second of all, ladies and gentlemen, in Zimbabwe, we did not come here to talk about assumptions. This is a solution-based debate. We did not come here based on assumption. And you said that we gave you nothing, but we did. We said that 9 out of 10 girls are already indulging into sex, and 2 out of 3 of those girls are already indulging into undersex, showing that this is already happening. And the way to curb this is to give these children and give them contraceptive services so as to control the narrative that is there. I will explain 2 things. 2 theories that were introduced by Sigmund Freud, a well-known psychologist back in the day. He explained 2 stages called the oral stage and the anal stage that happens in the human beings as we grow from when we're babies. We start to be sexually active through our mouths, through breastfeeding, and then we move on to our anus through the removal of feces, showing that these things are already innate in us. It's just a matter of time until they manifest fully blown. That is why we're coming in as a house, saying that if we control the narrative, it becomes better. We are putting and availing these services to these children so that they know whenever they want to indulge into these activities, what to do, and they will do it informed of the dangers that they are putting themselves through, and how to even evade those dangers at the same time. I would like to concede my time.
Thank you. And now, opposers, in 1 minute and 30 seconds, please give us your closing, and that time starts now.
if there's one thing that the affirmative side clearly agrees to, is the fact that, according to their statistics, that 9 out of 10 children are engaged in sexual activities. But at the same time, they want to give contraceptives to children, which means they are doing nothing to the statistics that they're doing. They're saying, yes, continue to have sex, we're going to give you contraceptives, we're going to do this to you. But they're not tackling the issue at hand. Because we tell you that offering contraceptive does not relate or does not equate to children start practicing safe sex. That we tell you that the only way we can start to engage in such issues is when we educate children about safe sex. Right? The moment we do this, we believe that we are saying children should deal with these things on their own, of which, without having the manual that they kept on talking about, they didn't even say anything about the manual that they kept on referring to in this debate. We come and tell you that, we point that out, and we would like them to clarify, but they failed to do that at the end of the day. So what have we done in this debate? We have shown you that discourse in our society is necessary, right? And we need to bridge that communication gap between parents and their kids, and even school, right? We need to educate children. What else have we shown you in this debate? We have shown you that in our policy that we have proposed, which is to have discourse, educate people on these things, we're going to have even less numbers of new HIV infections, because children are well equipped on how to have safe sex and all those things. That is what we managed to do in this debate, and with that we're proud to oppose.
And time. And also, in 1 minute and 30 seconds, affirmative, please give us your closing starting now.
The non-affirmative have agreed with us already that these kids are having sex. So the question is, would they have sex unsafely? We have heard of this cliche before: catch them young and watch them grow. It applies in this case, of course. Give them contraceptive and watch them grow safely, and watch them grow without the difficulty or the trouble of raising babies that they did not want in the first place. We are living in the world where technology is advancing almost every day. Information about sex is everywhere and easily accessible. Would you rather have children learning about sexuality and how to use contraceptive from untrusted source in magazines, when we could rather be the ones to put the narrative down and give knowledge about using contraceptive at the point of distribution? They have mentioned about abstinence. In a way, abstinence is an outdated view based on religious teaching, which may be a personal choice but is not expected as a norm for everyone. I believe that the harm of these so-called infections have been satisfactorily low after the invention of condoms, to say. Unwanted pregnancies have been low. This is not the time to be. This is not the time to convey resistance. Flow with the times. Thank you.
And you have ceded 15 seconds of your time to me, which wraps up this final debate that, of course, shall be leading to us having us given the final two who shall be getting into the grand finale. Say What, Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, of course, UNFPA, and Students and Academics International Assistance Fund, SAI. They have come to the party to make sure that we have debated these issues and that we have been replenished should we have known these issues, or educated if we absolutely did not know or were not privy to these issues that we discussed today. Of course, we shall be giving our adjudicators the opportunity to sieve through everything and make sure that we have the top two going head to head beyond this point. Of course, we shall be coming back to get the best of the best motion. They shall be giving us something of a debate in between the grand finale until we know who is winning this ultimate prize, this prize that has been here in Harare for 2 years, 2 consecutive years at the Harare Institute of Technology, but which probably was occupying space that they have since decided to look for other things to use for, because they are not taking it home today, they are handing it over to somebody. They fell by the wayside in the absolute first round. Shows you the pedigree, it shows you the hunger from other provinces because they want to snatch this away. It's been a great time. All the best. And thanks again to our judges. We know your work is absolutely hard. I shall be ceding this moment now to my colleague, Candice Mwakalele, who's been taking care of business on the other side, on the west wing of Herald House. And she's going to be talking to a variety of people before we come back here for the best of the best motion. And of course, for me to announce the top 2 teams, which shall indeed then go head to head. My name is Robin Kundiwa. Stay tuned.
All right, so joining me now is Delight Murigo, who is the UNFPA project lead. Delight, after vandalizing my table, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Candice.
All right, so just talk to us really quickly about the REAPS project, which is supported by UNFPA and its support towards this particular debate.
Okay, the REAPS project is support that we get from the United Nations Population Fund to implement in 8 colleges or 8 institutions of higher learning in Zimbabwe. The thrust of the project is to look at 3 variables. One, it's looking at issues around access to services. Are the services available for the young people, and are the young people or the students accessing those services for different reasons? The second one has to do with capacity. We also want to improve the capacity of the students within the colleges. So we conduct trainings and any other capacity development initiatives that we feel are relevant for the young people. And then the third thing is around information management. So we also try to find ways of gathering information that we package to the desire or to the utility of the students within the colleges. So those, I would say, are 3 of the greatest pillars. We also make use of what we call resource centers. So you realize that within colleges or tertiary institutions, they also need spaces where they can go access services, where they can go and dialogue in a free, uncoerced manner. So we also have resource centers that we've set up with the support of NFPA for students to go and play games, to go and discuss, to go, and in some of those resource centers, there are actually other services, the easy-to-deliver services, which are available in those resource centers. So that's also another integral component for us as an organization through the support of NFPA.
All right, now, so you seem to have quite a few things going on in coming to achieve the goals of this initiative, but it obviously isn't smooth sailing. What are some of the challenges that you are experiencing in getting across the messages, getting across, the goals and objectives of this particular initiative?
Okay, thank you for that question. You realize that students, their core business is education, and second to education, they really use their own discretion what they would want to use their time for. So CSE programs or sexual reproductive health programs, they come secondary to their core business. So it's not mandatory for the students to attend, which then gives us or leaves us a challenge of having to find a way of reaching out to everyone. You realize that we have tried to make use of avenues that reach out to students in bigger numbers. For example, when they have their orientation sessions are mandatory for every new student. So we make use of such avenues to reach out to the students. And then we have follow-up activities, for example, your dialogues, your training sessions, your exhibitions, bringing services to the college. So those become follow-up activities to the orientation we would have done. So the greatest challenge is that it's not mandatory for someone, for example, to be part of a Say What program. So some might end up just saying, no, this is not important for me. They would rather do something else with their time. But we are trying by all means to see how we can reach out to students in their different localities online, that is using visual means, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And also when schools are open, through different ways. Try to find out where they are located. Is it the boarding houses? Are they the study areas, for example, where they go and congregate? Are those the sports ground, etc.? So I try to look for spaces or avenues where we can get students in bigger numbers and where they are more amenable to our programs.
Right now, apart from just looking at the debate model itself, how else are you engaging students, especially when we look at students talking to each other and kind of being your biggest advocates, explaining to each other why they should be part of the programs that you are initiating, how important they are, and kind of, like you said, it's not mandatory, but making sure that their peers also understand why it is important to be involved.
Okay, the greatest advantage or the greatest strength of the peer education model is that you are taking people who are within the same circumstances to speak to each other. So they already have a leg in terms of the discussions. So what we do is when we do our orientations, we also recruit peer educators. And then we train the peer educators. Those become our agents of change, or they become our movement leaders when we do our programs. So as an example, let's say we go to an institution like maybe Gwanda State University, which might have an enrollment of about 300 people. If we train 30 people there and then we ask them to do dialogues with 10 people each, we've already reached out to maybe 200, 300 people, which is the entire university. So we try to see how the university or how the college is structured, what sort of programs are going on there outside what SAYWAT might do, and then we try to complement what's already going on. Some actually institutions have got very, very progressive programs that have to do with students' health. So we also ride on that. For example, if students affairs division through the health service department does health expos, that is what we ride on. If they have got gaming activities where they bring different faculties together, that is what we also try to ride on. But our central point of intervention are the peer educators whom we train within the colleges.
Now, Delight, we are heading towards 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. How have you incorporated this particular element in, the education that you send out to the different demographics that you work with?
Okay, you realize that gender-based violence, according to statistics from different sources, the cases of GBV are on the rise. And circumstances of addressing GBV are not the same as before. So back then, for example, if I am a student at a tertiary college, if I'm being abused at home, when I go to college, I'll feel relieved to say, maybe for the next 3 months, I'm going to find solace in maybe confiding in someone else, but this was not the case. So we also had to change our strategy. And we also realized that even the forms of violence themselves, they've changed. Cyberbullying was a thing, but it was not so rampant probably as it is now, because everyone is now constantly online. So we've also streamlined our activities to suit what challenges we are currently facing. So with the limitations that everyone else has, that you can't access the students physically, we try to make use of the platforms that we have. For example, we send bulk messages with key messages to those students that we already have within our databases. We also conduct some online activities, for example, our awareness campaigns on Facebook. We also have WhatsApp discussions or dialogues that we do on a weekly basis. We also have webinars. We also have Meet the Expert sessions where we get to discuss these issues. What is gender-based violence? How can you deal with gender-based violence within the circumstances that we are in right now during COVID? So I wouldn't say we have got a bullet, one-stop bullet, magic bullet to stop GBV for young people within this era, but we are trying our best within the limited means that we have.
All right, thank you so much for joining me, Delight. All right, so it is time for us to find out of the 6 universities that went up against each other, who have made it to the finals, and ultimately who will be our debating champion today. And with that said, I will hand you back over to Rob in the studio to take over from me.
SAYWAT has taken itself to implement the SASA Together project in partnership with the UN Women and several other partners that are working on it. The project has benefited the different communities who are working with, particularly Hopley community, because of its main focus with the aim of addressing gender-based violence within communities. SAYWAT makes it its mandate to ensure that young people are served with correct and consistent information and also are linked to services within the communities that they are in. That's the major thrust as well that the project focuses on.
The SASA is a methodology that seeks to transform gender norms, and it is based on the understanding that men's power over women is the root cause of GBV. And we've seen that as long as GBV is rife in a community or in a household, it becomes difficult for household members, particularly women and girls, to then participate in other areas of life. We're looking at women participating in economic activities, participating in politics, participating even in the governance of their communities or the country at large. So as long as GBV is rife, we are then affecting other development outcomes.
Pakapinda program yeSay What muno yekutanga taitongoona kunga zvisina basa, asi pandakazoona training yacho yakatondibatsirawo nokuti ndanditoriwo mumhirishonga, saka ndakava neinterest yakanyanya kuti ndidzidze nekuzobvunza vamwe kuti zviiko zvine chekuita nezvazvo. Saka tiri kuita mareferrals atinoita atakadzidziswa kuti kana iri nyaya yekuti mwana arepwa ndofanira kuti ndiende naye kupi, kana kuti mwana aabuswa social welfare inofanira kunge ine information, kana kuti mwana ari kubatwa zvisizvo kana kuti arepwa mwana afanire kuenda kuchipatara awane kubatsirika within 72 hours.
Sasa yakatibatsira zvikuru nenhau yekuti ndaigara ndichirwa nemudzimai wangu, saka yakatiudza kuti mhirishonga yakaipira pane zvakasiyana siyana. Saka naizvozvo ndinoitenda Sasa project nekuti zvinhu zvedu zvachinja, takugara zvakanaka nemudzimai wangu.
Uyezve nyango ndoita zvebhora, saka kubhora iwo nangoti kana nyango timu yangu ikatoryiwa inini ndakutoda zvechibhakira kubaya nekuita sei vanhu nemapanga. Ndofunga ndakapinda majeri nenyaya inoizi iyoyo.
Ndoda kutenda veSay What neprogramu yavo yavakaunza yeSASA muno yaishanda nezvegender based violence. Mumba medu mune dambudziko, mumba medu izvo zvita kutowirana kana wanyange kuita chinhu takutoita chinhu chimwe chete. Nyangwe manwira vakuita doro mazuva ano, vakutonwa doro zvakanaka because vaitoti it's a must kuti everyday vanwe doro. Vakanwa doro racho ritori dambudziko mumba. Pamusuwo vadzidziswa nyaya yeGBV, kana nyangwe vari kubhawa ndo nyaya vanenge vachilecture iyoyo.
Taiva vamwe vaishungurudzawo vakadzi mudzimba takazviona kuti zvinodzorera mumashure.
Inini ndisati ndadzidza mhirishonga taiita zvekuti kabva kubhawa taiva takadhakwa tichivhiringa vakadzi. Saka kubva ipapo patakabatsirwa takaona kuti hazviite kuti tirambe tichiita mhirishonga nevakadzi bhozi tinge iri rose yataichitoita. Bhozi mukadzi unomukwadza futi uda kuzomuendesa kuchipatara ndiwe. Vana futi unenge uchivavhiringidza futi vachikura vanozokura vasina kunazoita pfungwa dziri nani nekuti vanenge vachingoti ndo zvatakakura tichiita.
Ndakaenda kuna Sister Foch. Ndataura naSister Foch, murume wangu akambotanga achiramba. Kusvika vazouya vagara naye pasi vanyatsomutsanangurira nemo vasingamhanyi. Kwakuzotora right bhozi yepa akanzoti VFU akafungidzira ndakunodi ndakunosungwa. Kwakuenda kuVFU kwakunotsanangurwa kwakunotaurwa nasemukadzi nemurume. Takabva ikoko takanserwa nevanhu vanga vari ikoko zvekuti patakatoya murodi tichisvika kumbaka aiwa rudo rwanga rwakatsva.
Mukadzi amanikidzwa bonde kana asingari.
Mudzimba munoda rudo. Kana mawana mari ivai munesa pamusoro pamwe chete. Chataura mumwe unofanira kuchiteererawo.
With SASA together, the future can only be bright.
Last year, 10 universities from across Zimbabwe locked horns in a game of minds under the Speak and Solve Initiative SASI debate.
Welcome to the Speak and Solve Initiative Universities Debate.
Do you understand the fundamental basis of availing condoms in prisons, and do you agree with it?
The fundamental basis of providing condoms in prisons is to reduce the new HIV infections, and we're saying that it is not the only way that we can do that, and it is not the first step that we need to take, because some of those Zimbabwean prisoners are not educated as to how to use those condoms, and probably they don't even know how they can help them. Pardon?
How are condoms not reactive?
I have to say that this coveted award is being awarded only the second time in its existence, because this is the second year that this debate has been held. You may want to know that the inaugural winners of this lovely trophy were Harare Institute of Technology, and retaining it, congratulations. Come forward.
Will the Harare Institute of Technology be the winners again this year? Will they defend their trophy?
It is my singular honor to share this keynote address on behalf of the Embassy of Sweden in Zimbabwe. The Swedish Embassy is committed to increase access to and respect for sexual and reproductive health and rights, especially for young people. To increase reach to young people, we have partnered Say What for an Action for Choice project, a project that is working hard to expand the knowledge and attitudes of students in Zimbabwe so that they can successfully learn, function, and participate in the broader global community. We believe that when students' sexual and reproductive health choices are broadened, there is increased potential for them to excel in other parts of life, such as education, professional careers, and employability. I would like to commend Say What for doing this important work. It is against this background that I welcome you all to the 2020 National Debate Competition. This year's edition comes at a time when the world is experiencing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is my sincere hope that this debate edition will also highlight how youth development can thrive in times of emergencies such as these. The debate competition, which has been aptly branded the Speak and Solve initiative, creates a good space for critical thinking on subject topics that are difficult for most of our communities. Debating on its own is a good culture, which creates ground to sustainable growth and development. Having said this, I would like to wish all competitors and viewers of this year's debates a good experience as we go through the competition. Finally, in conclusion, I must say that beyond enjoying the moment and celebrating your wins in this competition, please take a moment to reflect on what you will learn and have learned throughout this process, and how you can use that to make yourself and those around you better. Thank you all for joining this broadcast and lending your voices and visions to this debate. I wish you all the best. Tatenda, Siyabonga, Tak.
My name is Leo Munyono from Say What, Manicaland. I'm here today under the Action for Choice project, where we have young men under the Mugota platform. They've been doing dialogues during this event, and they've been talking to young men of their age, talking about different issues of sexual and reproductive health. We are emphasizing that young men, male students, are partners and supporters for young women or female students to access sexual and reproductive health services. These dialogues are meant to promote positive choices amongst young men. We are especially saying young men should not be perpetrators of sexual harassment. Young men should not be perpetrators of gender-based violence within the college environment. So we are saying young men should be supporters for female students. Young men should help in creating a conducive environment where female students are comfortable and safe to access sexual and reproductive health services. The dialogues have been taking place in a very unique way. You see this combi behind me. The young men, you know, can do dialogues here, and they are also doing the dialogues outside this combi. Each time they see this combi moving within the college environment, they see it as a symbol of young men's pride, and they take it as a symbol of advocacy for positive programs that promote female students' participation. And Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences is so proud to be part of this project, which so far has promoted positive participation from the male students, especially in as far as the access to HIV services is concerned, the promotion of gender-based violence-free environment is concerned, as well as the improved access to contraception.
Well, welcome back. It's been a very fantastic and fantastical ride in certain instances, but certainly our judges are finding out for us who are the best two who are going to get on the teams and be head-to-head one against the other. But in the interim, we found a lot of different and differing thoughts and even demeanor. And so today, if you look up here with me, I've got two very awkward teams, you would think, because ordinarily they don't know each other. However, whatever I decide I put together, I do put together. So they were drawn from wheresoever they were sitting, and we thought, well, they would make absolutely beautiful teams. You do know when you're on the bus and you're debating, you will not have come from the same home or the same village in order to debate on the same side. So what we decided was, we're going to pick random people from different teams that probably have fallen by the wayside in round one, but that didn't mean that they didn't have solid discussion and debating points. So we brought them together. And what banter, what fun we're going to have, and let's see how they're going to gel together in as little time as possible, because this world can be very, very spontaneous. We did hear spontaneous arguments about, for example, condomizing, and I'm sure the adjudicators would remember that. People say, well, you'd need more time for PrEP to kick in, whereas intercourse just happens just like that. Now, this is intercourse of the minds. Let's see where the biggest product will come from between these two different teams that we put together, as intellectual intercourse starts now. I'm going to start by the lady immediately to my right. Tell me, again, your name, your institution, program you're studying towards. Just.
My name is Precious Bondokoto. I'm from HIT. My program is Information Security and Assurance. I'm a Part 1 student.
Okay. Now tell me, Precious, of course, it must have been disappointing not coming into round two. How did that feel when you finally found out you haven't made it? And you guys are in trouble because they were expecting this. They've had it for 2 years in a row. It's lived at your place practically. And you came here and you gave it away. What does that say to you?
To be honest, there was like a lot of emotions. There was kind of disappointment. There was a bit of anger. There was also embarrassment, given that we have been holding the trophy for 2 years. But then we live to learn, right? So then that's why we're also here. We're learning, and then when we go back to our institution, we're gonna go and teach others where we lost it.
And, you know, there's also a bit of relief there, because if it's going to be a burden, you know, they say uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. You were wearing the crown for 2 years. Now at least you can go on holiday and rest and say, you know what, the burden is on other people. So it's not all doom and gloom. At least now you can come and challenge for it rather than be known as the defending champions all the time. There's going to be a lot of pressure in that. The gentleman, your name, institution, and what you're studying towards.
Well, my name is Wilson Mubanga from Bindra University. I'm studying towards crop science and degree, and I'm a 2-2 student.
What science degree?
Crop science.
Oh, I thought you said a crab science.
No, crop science.
We don't particularly have crabs and shrimps in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
But good luck.
But we have good crops.
We do have crops,
Yes.
certainly. You also fell by the wayside first round there. What were the emotions, and also coming into the competition, what were your expectations?
I came here to learn, have fun, and also express myself. So as a person, you also have to understand that this is a competition. There's supposed to be a winner and a loser. So I accept the fall. That's what's happened. But now I'm here to take back what's mine.
Aha. Which is why we brought you back. Which is why we brought you back, indeed. And now, the lady. Your name, your institution, what you're reading towards. I'm sure it's not crab science.
My name is Ashley Barara from Bindra University of Science Education, studying economics, part 3-1.
Economics. You're standing against this gentleman. You work with him on certain instances. What do you think this challenge will be like, seeing him on the opposite side of the podium, as it were?
It's an experience, I guess, because we've never been opposing each other. Like, we've never done that before, so it's an experience for me. It's a learning curve for both of us. I think it's that time where we learn the other side
Absolutely.
of each other.
And what we wanted was to raise a bit of sibling rivalry, as it were, and we've obviously done a perfect job. And finally, the gentleman, what's your program, your university, and of course, your name?
Okay. My name is Brian Tulani Ngwenya. I'm a student at Lupana State University studying towards urban and regional planning. I'm part 2-1.
Okay. Lupane, you have quite a history. You saw what happened with the quiz at Say What as well. You didn't do particularly well, and obviously you came and you thought this should be it. It didn't quite work, but did you get a bit of pressure from the fact that the quiz team had already set another precedent somewhere else and people are going to be looking at you different, and did that give you a bit of pressure?
Well, it did give us a little bit of pressure because even in the group, they were telling us, you guys, you need to represent, you guys need to bring it home this time.
And don't do what the quiz team did. And then unfortunately you brought the notebook that the quiz team had.
Yeah.
But there's a chance for a new notebook. Of course, people will decide who's going to win this. I don't know. I think maybe one of our adjudicators, perhaps Sly there, will give us the verdict for this. Yeah, all the best. And of course, we're still following the same format. And today, on our best of best motion, we're saying the House would implement tougher punishments for people who commit crimes against women. The House would implement tougher punishments for people who commit crimes against women. As always, we're going to continue with our format, which says affirmative, and that's you. You have 3 minutes to open. Then opposers get 1 minute of cross-examination. Opposers then open for 3 minutes. Then you also get, as affirmative, 1 minute to cross-examine. Then opposers will give us their 2-minute rebuttal. Affirmative, you give us your 2-minute rebuttal. And then opposers will close in 1 minute and 30 seconds before the affirmative then wraps it up in 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is the fun end of what has been an absolutely rewarding day, and a day in which we all have absolutely learned. I hope you're enjoying this as we now wait at least for the adjudicators to give us those final 2 teams that shall go head to head. But in the meantime, we've got these 2 hybrid teams. Let's have a little bit of fun. Affirmative, you have 3 minutes to open on the motion that says the House would implement tougher punishments for people who commit crimes against women. Your 3 minutes of opening start now.
Now, welcome to a silly world, whereby Due to the fact that we have introduced gender equality, it basically means that women have suddenly become masculine, ladies and gentlemen. They've suddenly become even stronger than before. Now, as a delegation, we're here with the notion emotion that believes that this house would implement tougher punishments for people who commit crimes against women. Now, as a delegation, we are setting our parameters around these certain crimes. Number 1, cyberbullying. Number 2, physical abuse. And number 3, psychological abuse, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we have grouped our arguments into argument number 1, where we're looking at the why part. Why has this motion been set in motion, ladies and gentlemen? Argument number 2, how? How are we going to implement this tougher punishments on people who abuse the women in our societies? And number 3, when are these solutions going to be implemented? Now, as a delegation, we do believe that women are generally genetically weaker, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is a well-known fact. There is no need to argue. Now, look at the people who are number 1, hitting women, who are number 2, harassing women. Now, these people deserve to be punished, ladies and gentlemen. Not just a simple punishment, but to be given a very, very tough punishment, ladies and gentlemen, because generally they are abusing the weaker species in our kind, ladies and gentlemen. We're also looking at how this is gender-based violence, whereby we're looking at how these women are being beaten, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes for not even cooking sada properly. Does that make sense? So then at the end of the day, when these women are harassed and these crimes are committed, the perpetrators need to be punished indefinitely. We're also looking at how this promotes low self-esteem in our women, ladies and gentlemen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it has become a culture of pornography, ladies and gentlemen. Leaking out these nude pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Now, these are usually women, ladies and gentlemen, who are being abused. And we as a delegation are standing strong saying that enough is enough. Now, the time is now whereby we're bringing solutions to the table, ladies and gentlemen, leading us to our argument number 2, which is the how part, where we're looking at what are the tougher, ladies and gentlemen, tougher punishments that we could give. Number 1, tit for tat is a fair game, an eye for an eye. If a lady has been beaten by a gentleman, then we are also going to beat that same gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, because we believe in fairness. We're also looking at how these men, or rather these people, are supposed to pay fines, ladies and gentlemen, when they have committed these crimes. We're also looking at how they're going to be suspended from their working places or even their schooling institutions. And our third argument, which is the very small part, but the important part, the when part. When is this going to happen, ladies and gentlemen? Now, people are being abused out there, especially women, day in and day out. We can't wait any longer. So let us start with the change right now, because we believe in preserving a future that promotes growth in women. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time is up. So the beatings effectively are starting now. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. That's interesting. You said you were Precious.
Yes.
Precious, you are also very popular on the comment section because of the way your gentleman comes. It flows just like this. So people are like, is she saying gentleman? So let's get that again. Ladies and what?
Ladies and gentlemen.
No. Okay. Now, in a minute, opposers, please give us your cross-examination starting now.
Do you believe that there are also women who harass men? So gender-based violence is both sides.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at the effects of whether these women are being abused. We're not looking at the male part, to be precise. We're looking at the motion whereby we're including women only.
But you talked about fairness. So what happens to women who commit crimes against men if we're imposing tougher punishments on women?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we're imposing tougher punishments is because we're looking at our burden of proof. The reason why we're debating is that women genetically are weaker as compared to men. And thus, that is how we're trying to balance the equation, ladies and gentlemen. Please get me right.
Don't you also believe that there'll be an increase in crimes against women because men now feel inferior due to the overemphasized so-called women empowerment?
No, nothing like that will happen, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking even at gender equality. Now, this is the same scheme that we're trying to implement with these punishments, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, well, that also says, I think the ladies have just escaped because I was expecting you to say we will also beat them, but they are not getting beatings. Opposers, you now have your 3 minutes to open, and those 3 minutes start now. Tula.
Ladies and gentlemen, we as the opposing side would like to bring forward the case that there are already existing forms of punishment for men or for other people that commit crimes against these women. So why then be the need for it for them to be burdened? We pose forward a question: who commits? What happens to women who commit crimes to other women? What happens to those crimes that are already to all those sentences that already exist against those who commit crimes against women? We also feel that women empowerment has been overemphasized to the extent that there is disempowerment of the boy child. We are so much focusing on the girl child and thereby raising a generation of much over-empowered women and more less empowered men, which therefore brings the issue that we are going to be faced with an issue of gender-based violence, whereby now the women are beating the men. There are other crimes that deserve the toughest punishments. And this therefore means that we would not rather spend much time toughening the punishments as there already exists punishment. People save up to 30 years on rape cases. And what then would be the need of toughening the sentence if already deprived someone 30 years of their good life? This therefore means that we are of the idea that there is no need to toughen the punishments that already exist, but there is need maybe to actually try and find a way to work around them. This therefore means that we should try and when empowering women, try and also empower men, so that we can actually have a clear gender balance, so that we actually try and eliminate this than actually trying to perpetuate them. Because when you overemphasize, when you overempower these women, you're actually telling the men that they're inferior, and this therefore will not reach out to someone who stays in the rurals or who stays wherever, considering that the majority of the population of Zimbabwe are actually people who stay in the rural areas. Thank you.
No, I don't want your 56 seconds. Keep talking, Brian. No.
Okay. Further going on, this would rather mean that we'd also continue with the sentences that we have for people who commit crimes against women, so as to maintain the balance that is already there. And also the issue of changing the constitution and changing the acts frequently therefore means that we also have a problem. So we are trying to avoid the issue that we seem like people who don't know where they are going, or we seem like people who don't know what they want as a nation, considering the fact that we recently changed the constitution in 2013, and then we want to amend it now and say we are toughening the sentences on people who commit crimes against women.
Well, that was a long 56 seconds of ours, but you managed to sneak in a couple of words there. So, see, that's what happens when we force you to do some of these things, because, of course, debate is something that will just explode or implode wherever and whenever. We don't plan for it, which is why this, of course, this initiative to have this impromptu something and bring them together was absolutely pertinent. That 1 minute of cross-examination from affirmative starts now.
Okay, so can I ask you a question? Do you even know what a patriarchal society is?
Yes.
Do you even know the chauvinistic character of our forefathers? Do you even know that? Chauvinism is just male uplifting. So you're saying that we are over-empowering women. Are you aware that the women, our sisters, our mothers, they have been inferior years and years, and yet we are fighting for their gender equality? Are you aware of that, sir?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much for affirming. So moving on, and you just highlighted that there is already forms of punishments that are there. But are you aware that the punishments are increasing as well? Are you aware? Women are being sexually harassed, cyberbullied, they're even beaten, they're even raped. But what are we doing? Nothing. You just hang in there saying, we want to what? To increase and also change. Why would we change when the women are still being punished, when the women are still being harassed, when the women are still being oppressed? Please rephrase. Thank you.
Well, there we have it. That's a minute gone. Rebuttal, 2 minutes starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, they are saying that we're doing nothing towards gender-based violence. What happened to 16 days of activism? It is there.
we fight against gender-based violence. We have been fighting, and we've been fighting for quite a long time now. How about we focus more on why is it increasing? The reason why we're actually debating on this motion and imposing tougher punishments is because the punishments that we've imposed are not working. Why can't we find the solution? Instead of toughening the punishment, maybe it will make things worse. Why can't we find the solution? Why can't we find out why crimes are being committed against women? Why can't we find out why these crimes continue to happen? Isn't it because that we have overemphasized empowerment of women and forgotten the men? So the men now feel inferior and feel that they need to show that they still on it. Like you've said, it has always been patriotic. It has always been men leading women, confirm? And by saying that, that certainly means that power has been instilled in them. So removing it in them, using punishments, might as well strengthen them to beat women more. Why can't we actually find better solutions that are not tougher punishments to work with this? What happened to social work? What happened to talking to these men? Why should we impose tougher punishments when we have other methods that we can use? We believe in zero gender-based violence, but we have women that abuse men. We have forgotten that because we are focused on the women, and we have forgotten that this world has two sexes, that is the male and the female. Ladies and gentlemen, if we continue to emphasize women empowerment and impose tougher punishments on people who commit crimes against women and forget that these women also commit crimes against each other, then we are actually losing it all. Because what happens to a woman who creates a crime against a woman?
And time opposers will close for us in a minute and 30 seconds. Give us that minute and 30 seconds now. Oh, I still owe you a rebuttal. Oh, that's why you're like, yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Panel, please allow me to retaliate from the softer forms of the 16 days of activism, whereby we just have to hold lectures, whereby we just have to hold pamphlets saying that let's go orange to fight against the gender-based violence. But I say that you strike a rock, you strike a woman. In my Pitkin or my traditional language, we say watinta abafas, watinti mpokodo. You strike a rock, you strike a woman. So what I'm trying to say is that if you try to beat a woman, expect fire. Because it's high time we stop. It's high time we fight back. Why am I saying so? You guys, you have always been saying that we're over-empowering women. But take note, women are genetically weak. And they're emotionally weak. But what do men do? They always post, they always tag, they always insult the women. Then after insulting them, what do they do? What does the law do? They just say, no, let's retaliate, let's just go and say, let's activate. No, thank you. And also, by the way, let me just correct you. It's not only men that are being beaten. If they were beaten, why didn't they report? We've got organizations like Padari in Bindura, where I come from. They advocate for men who are being gender-based violence. They are victims of gender-based violence. But today, the motion of today states that punishments are supposed to be tougher against the criminal acts towards women. We are fighting for the women. We are fighting for the rights of our mothers. We are fighting for our sisters. Let's try to fight for the better generation. Let's fight for tomorrow, because these are the birthright. Hansi, Mukadzi, Musha. And if we do not respect a wife, things will not work. So let's toughen the punishment. I thank you.
I think I can accept 13 seconds. I think I can. Yeah. So, opposers, you now have a minute and 30 seconds. By the way, it's you strike a woman, you strike a rock. Yeah, but you had struck the rock first before the woman. I was like, this is.
Too emotional.
Yes.
I'm so hysterical.
Yes.
There are points, you know.
I can't express myself. We're going to make sure you're going to be. Yes, we're going to make sure you're going to be separated going forward. So, opposers closing. Give us that 1 minute and 30 seconds, starting now.
Panel, they bring forth the point that there are actually NGOs, the Padari you mentioned, that fight for men. How many are they in this whole country that fight for men?
Please do research. You'll find many.
Hey, Rena. This is
Okay, so going forward, the whole issue of imposing tougher tougher sentences for those who commit crimes against women would bring us to the saying that an eye for an eye makes the whole country blind. This therefore means that if we're going to impose tougher sentences on those who commit crimes against women, we are actually saying that if someone kills, they're supposed to be killed. If someone steals, they're supposed to have something from them stolen. If someone does anything, this therefore means that everyone is going to go wrong, right? So what we're saying is, if you mentioned the point that women are weak. So if women are weak, why then do we keep on lying to them and tell them that they are strong? What is the need of saying that women are, what is the need of you coming here and standing in front of us and telling us that women are weak, and then also telling us that we need to impose tougher sentences for those who commit crimes against women? If those women are empowered, like you say, they don't need to be they don't need tougher sentences. In fact, they can also survive like the male species does. So if talking about going to the point of the 16 days of activism.
And now you've just lost all the time. You see, last time you gave us too much time. Now you are battling for time. Yeah. Well, that the question of the rock has been asked. How are we saying they're weak, but they're also rocks, unless they're limestone? So I think this is. No, it's all right. I think this was where the question was coming from. So affirmative, you now have a minute and 30 seconds to close, and your minute and 30 seconds, well, it starts now.
Now, throughout this whole debating session, there has been one misconception, which is why we are supposed to provide tougher punishments for those people that are committing crimes against women. Now, these guys came here and talked about how there are already existing punishments, but then these punishments are not working, and that is why we need a working solutions, which are tougher punishments, ladies and gentlemen, where we're saying that our government will actually be in charge of putting forward these punishments, ladies and gentlemen, and thus their point holds no water for where they're saying that there are already existing punishments, ladies and gentlemen. These are simply not working, and that is why we as a delegation brought you forward a working solution. They also came here and they're talking about how you guys are telling us that women are weak, but at the end of the day, they're saying that they're strong. But the point is, we're trying to motivate these women, these ladies, and you over there. We're also trying to motivate you, my darling, so that you become stronger, so that you become the stone you're supposed to be in our society, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they also came here and talked about 16 days of activism. What do? They walk around holding posters, just saying, we do not want to be beaten. So then how does that create a solution at the end of the day? Now, I cannot waste my time trying to go over the silly points that they've risen. But as a delegation, we came here and we gave you the reason why this punishment should be tougher. We came here, we gave you the solutions of how the government should implement this. And we also talked about the time frame, which is now, because we need the change now, ladies and gentlemen, because our women should be motivated.
Our time is done, I think. So, Precious, my darling, it's been an absolute pleasure having you guys up here, and certainly thrusting you together just that quickly without prior arrangement, bringing teams together. It's something that we always want to do here on Zim Papers Television Network. And this is exactly one of the reasons behind having Say What bring these institutions, the 10 institutions that came here together, because you're not only going to be interacting between yourselves as teams, you're going to be networking beyond your universities. And what greater way to network than this that has been in motion right now, seeing you come together with an absolute random person and making absolutely beautiful teams. There we go. You are Wilson, thank you so much for coming here and for the spirit. And yeah, I hope you're going to deal with the issue of which rock we're talking about and that sort of thing. And Precious, thank you so much for being a precious asset to this dialogue that we've had. You are? Ashley. Ashley, well, she also wants to empower you. She says, my darling, she's doing it for you, and you did it for us here on Zim Papers Television Network. Brian, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being part of this amazing 4-human team that has really brightened the tail end of our debating day today. When you return, I shall be having at least a list of the top 6, and then you will know the final 2 that are going to be battling head-to-head before we cede this particular trophy into the arms, into the hands of the team that's going to be keeping it at home, at their university, at least for the next coming year. So stay tuned. We will have the top 6 from here going on.
The year where we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now, this is an international campaign that runs from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. Now, this campaign is there so that we eliminate violence against women and girls, and I hope that you guys are excited. I hope that you're joining the movement. We can prevent gender-based violence against women. Remember to tell a friend, your communities, your friends, your families. Our voices will be heard. Our message will be amplified. Be sure to participate in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
So, we're back again, and now I know for sure the 2 teams that shall be battling it out in the absolute grand finale here today. This has been the Speak and Solve Initiative, SASI debate. That's the National Universities debate here on Zimpapers Television Network, brought to us by our eternal partners, Say What. Of course, they are supported in their endeavors by the UNFPA, the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, SAI, the Students and Academics International Assistance Fund. Because in order to bring such an intriguing day, there has to be a lot of hard work, energy, tireless dedication, and indeed investment put into something like this in order for it to work. Before I announce those 2 that I shall be bringing to the podium here for the final toss, I want to focus again on my adjudicators, because if you're happy or unhappy, it is these 3 who are ultimately responsible for that decision making. And so these are my adjudicators. They are responsible for whatever has happened. They are Vanessa Amidu and Sylvester Nyamatendedza. And right in the middle is the chief culprit if you are unhappy, or the chief adjudicator if you are happy with what happened, and that is Nqobile Dube. Of course, we shall also be getting a report from the judges so that they tell us what it is they were looking at. We shall also be giving you that roll call, sadly or happily, of the teams all placed in order of how they performed from team number 10, and eventually we shall get to know who lifts the trophy. Now, in no particular order, the 2 teams that shall be gracing my studio for one last time, one last battle, who shall be standing on my flanks one last time. Well, some of you have started guessing. Shanti Felihama guessing. Kudzai Chimombe was guessing. Is your guess correct? Well, I will tell you the first team in the final is the University of Zimbabwe from right here in Harare, the capital. The motion would be the House would annul all primary, high school, and tertiary examination certificates of 2020 and make all candidates resit for exams in 2021. You know, we've had a catastrophic year because of COVID-19. So the University of Zimbabwe is going to be debating this motion that says the House would annul all primary, high school and tertiary examination certificates of 2020 and make all candidates resit for exams in the year 2021. But who shall they be battling against? Well, that last birth is something that I will be telling you in a minute after this very short break. And now, to prepare for the motion, the House would annul all primary, high school and tertiary examination certificates of the year 2020 and make all candidates resit for exams in 2021. Congratulations. It is you, Midlands State University. Midlands State University making it to the final and being pitted against the University of Zimbabwe. When we return, we shall be tossing the coin to see who is affirming and who is opposing, and we shall get down to business because this is absolutely what we have been waiting for. Don't go away.
It is my singular honor to share this keynote address on behalf of the Embassy of Sweden in Zimbabwe. The Swedish Embassy is committed to increase access to and respect for sexual and reproductive health and rights, especially for young people. To increase reach to young people, we have partnered Say What for an Action for Choice project, a project that is working hard to expand the knowledge and attitudes of students in Zimbabwe so that they can successfully learn, function, and participate in the broader global community. We believe that when students' sexual and reproductive health choices are broadened, there is increased potential for them to excel in other parts of life, such as education, professional careers, and employability. I would like to commend Say What for doing this important work. It is against this background that I welcome you all to the 2020 National Debate Competition. This year's edition comes at a time when the world is experiencing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is my sincere hope that this debate edition will also highlight how youth development can thrive in times of emergencies such as these. The debate competition, which has been aptly branded the Speak and Solve initiative, creates a good space for critical thinking on subject topics that are difficult for most of our communities. Debating on its own is a good culture, which creates ground to sustainable growth and development. Having said this, I would like to wish all competitors and viewers of this year's debates a good experience as we go through the competition. Finally, in conclusion, I must say that beyond enjoying the moment and celebrating your wins in this competition, please take a moment to reflect on what you will learn and have learned throughout this process, and how you can use that to make yourself and those around you better. Thank you all for joining this broadcast and lending your voices and visions to this debate. I wish you all the best. Nitatenda, Siyabonga, Tak.
Did you know? Say What Now has a call center. You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
Hello everyone, it's that time of the year where we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now this is an international campaign that runs from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. Now this campaign is there so that we eliminate violence against women and girls, and I hope that you guys are excited. I hope that you're joining the movement. We can prevent gender-based violence against women. Remember to tell a friend, your communities, your friends, your families. Our voices will be heard, our message will be amplified. Be sure to participate in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Did you know? Say What Now has a call center. You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
Last year, 10 universities from across Zimbabwe locked horns in a game of minds under the Speak and Solve Initiative SASSI debate.
Welcome to the Speak and Solve Initiative Universities Debate.
Do you understand the fundamental basis of availing condoms in prisons, and do you agree with it?
The fundamental basis of providing condoms in prisons is to reduce the new HIV infections, and we're saying that it is not the only way that we can do that, and it is not the first step that we need to take, because some of those Zimbabwean prisoners are not educated as to how to use those condoms, and probably they don't even know how they can help them. Pardon?
How are condoms not reactive?
I have to say that this coveted award is being awarded only the second time in its existence, because this is the second year that this debate has been held. You may want to know that the inaugural winners of this lovely trophy were Harare Institute of Technology, and retaining it, congratulations. Come forward.
Will the Harare Institute of Technology be the winners again this year? Will they defend their trophy?
Did you know? Say What Now has a call center. You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there.
And so we have arrived where we were headed to the grand finale. Here we are going to be discussing the motion: the House would annul all primary, high school and tertiary examination certificates of the year 2020 and make all candidates resit for exams in 2021. I have joining me here on the stage, I have the two teams. I have Midlands State University, and I've got the University of Zimbabwe. I also have a coin, which we shall toss to decide who takes which side of the podium, to my right being the affirmers and my left being the opposers. To decide whether to take head or tail, head being where the 2016 inscription lies, and tail being where the $1 inscription lies, we shall be giving that opportunity to Midland State University only by virtue of the fact that alphabetically they come first. So, Midland State University, head or tail?
Head.
They will go for head. I haven't tossed coins since heaven knows when. Well, will you tell us what you see on that inscription right now?
It's a dollar sign.
And that's tail. So, you decide whether you want to go affirmative or whether you want to oppose. And the motion is the House would annul all primary, high school and tertiary examination certificates of 2020 and make all candidates resit for exams in 2021.
We'd like to go for affirmative.
You would like to go for affirmative, and indeed you had already put your stationery there. That becomes home. And you, well, you will have to battle as the opposition. You have in your hands, and indeed between your ears, in your brains, the pride of where you come from, the institutions that you represent. You are on the verge of writing history. You stand at the threshold of a new era, an era where the Harare Institute of Technology forgets about this trophy, because you shall become the first university outside of HIT to hold on to this trophy for a year. We have been giving them quite a bit of a tough time, HIT, but the truth is, in all fairness, they did quite great work. They were putting together PPEs and sanitizers, so probably they didn't have enough time to research on SR-HR issues, and therefore they lost their thrust on this absolutely magnificent trophy, and somebody between the two of you is going to pounce upon it. It's a minute to 5 o'clock. It is the time we've all been waiting for here on Zim Papers television network. I shall start again for the final time by asking that you introduce yourselves to those who may not have been following these proceedings from the absolute get-go. These proceedings, which are a debate brought to you by Say What, with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, UNFPA and SAI. I shall start with the gentleman immediately to my right. Give me your name, the program towards which you are studying, and the university which you represent.
Good day, everyone. My name is Anthony Chiwata. I am studying with the University of Zimbabwe, and I'm doing public administration in my 3rd year.
Thank you, Anthony. And the lady.
Hello, my name is Nadia Mtisi. I'm a 2nd year law student at the University of Zimbabwe.
Thank you. And I shall come to Team Midland State University, starting with a gentleman standing underneath a fedora.
My name is Baxton Nakwakwilo, and I'm a 3rd year law student at Midland State University.
And the lady.
My name is Nomakawe Ngweng, and I'm a 3rd year student at the Midland State University studying History and International Studies.
Nomakawe. Well, this is it. This is the moment you have been waiting for, to fight for the absolute crown. Again, quickly, this is the format that we shall be using. The affirming team will open with 3 minutes, then the opposers will cross-examine in 1 minute. The opposers then open in 3 minutes, and affirmative will cross-examine in a minute, after which the opposers will give us their rebuttal for 2 minutes, and the affirmative team will also give us their rebuttal for 2 minutes. We shall then be at the business end with the opposers closing in 1 minute and 30 seconds, and of course, affirmative, you will have the last word closing also in 1 minute and 30 seconds. I cannot ask you if you're ready, because you can never be ready fight for such a prestigious something. So I shall use the power vested in me as your debate master, keyword being master, to say, in the grand finale motion that reads, the House would annul all primary, high school and tertiary examination certificates of 2020 and make all candidates resit for exams in 2021. Affirmative, you've got 3 minutes to open, and those 3 minutes start now.
Panel, in today's motion, it's no longer business as usual. We're talking about how it's not every year or annually that the entire globe is attacked by a global pandemic, which is honestly a global crisis. So it is therefore justified to allow the students to annul the exams and to allow the students to sit them at a time that is much more convenient. Why do we think so? We think, number one, there are no mechanisms put in place to ensure that they don't infect each other. But also we talk about how we need to value our stakeholders in this debate because they're primary custodians of the policy that we're making. But number two, we talk about how a majority of individuals living in Zimbabwe constitute a majority of the global poor. That is to say, they don't have a means to protect themselves against the COVID-19, but also they did not have access to education throughout the lockdown period. It meant they had limited or no access to the internet. So what do we do to a child who lives in Tikizizi village who could not access e-learning compared to a kid who went to a learning academy who had all the privilege that accrued to it? This is a chart on privilege and how we need to be pro-poor and value the most disenfranchised individuals within a society. Most importantly, we think that when government makes policies, they ought to be pro-poor and have those that cannot fend for themselves at the back of their minds. Panel, we think that when we annul these exams, we give the government particularly adequate time to restructure and re-strategize so that they can put proper mechanisms that exist to control the virus. Panel, talk about a scenario of whereby we have had kids in institutions currently opening, engaging in sexual whatsoever activities, but most importantly, there is no social distances that we see, social distancing or respect of COVID-19 restrictions that is going on. It means the government has not yet proper mechanisms to address the problems, proper mechanisms that exist to protect those children, right? But also we talk about how the government has a backlog on educational issues that they still need to address. Mind you, we still have teachers that need to be paid. We still have institutions that need to be paid particular attention to. We think that that's very, very detrimental when we rushfully force these children to sit for the exams while the teacher crisis is not addressed. Back onto our stakeholders, we think that their psyche and their mental health is of primary importance in this debate. We think that it's not catered for when you push them forth to say, no, sit for your exams. Even if you're going to reduce the threshold, it does not exempt them from the pressures that they're going to go through. I mean, the pressure that you go through even before seeing your exam, knowing that you're supposed to sit for an exam that you never even studied for because you're at home, probably doing chores or probably having to carry water 12 kilometers away from where you live. Talk about university students and the strain that they have, not having access to internet, not having access to resources that they truly need. But most importantly, let's agree, this has been a wasted year. What do I mean by this? Education is supposed to help individuals to be useful in society and to apply what they've learned. You don't learn for exams, you learn for utility, you learn to be able to apply what you've learned. At this moment, we don't think that the pragmatics or they've learned enough to be able to apply what they've learned. It's just an issue of learning for exams.
Well, opposers, I give you, starting now, cross-examination time worth a minute.
What happens to those that have sat for exams and they've actually graduated and received those degree certificates?
That has happened. Let's look at those that have not.
The motion says those that have the certificates, the certificates will then be taken away from them. What happens?
I think practically because the education that they've attained is not enough or it's useless for the workforce. We think that we're going to have a generation or a gap of dumb individuals that do not understand the concept that they've acquired throughout their education. We need to sit down and restructure.
What happened in 2008? There's an economic crisis in 2008, but people still sat for exams.
It wasn't a global pandemic. It wasn't. They were still going to school. They did not have to do it online. They still had access to teachers. So we can't equate the two.
Okay. So do you agree that the economy is suffering and that in any African society right now we cannot afford for students?
Therefore, we can't kill the people so that we give the economy life.
So do you agree that stationery costs money? Do you agree that for people to go to school?
Opposers, in 3 minutes, you've got your opening, and that 3 minutes starts now.
Panel, it's rich for affirmative to come and argue to say people are very poor and can't afford to buy bundles, but at the same time they tell them to repay school fees and come back to school and still buy stationery, and government has to subsidize these things and redirect these individuals. It's the same government that they're saying is poor. These are the same parents that they're saying are poor, which then means that automatically shooting themselves in the foot in itself. But secondly, what we noted most from our side of the house is they're arguing for whether or not people should sit for exams, not what's going to happen to individuals, because the motion clearly states that certificates are going to be nullified. You don't get a certificate before you write an exam, sir. You get a certificate after you write an exam. But that was not important. Let me get to our matter, right? We think that, number one, they still did nothing in regards to telling us what's going to happen next year, because as far as we're concerned, there's uncertainty as to what's going to happen to COVID-19. Is there going to be no COVID-19 next year in 2021? What's going to happen there? They still do nothing to that, because as far as I'm concerned, 6 days ago, it was reported that there's a surge in COVID-19 cases. Bulawayo alone recorded 100 cases. What it means is the pandemic is still going on and it's still gaining traction. They did nothing to then address to say that next year the pandemic will be gone, which then means that automatically they're shooting themselves in the foot, right? Secondly, that we think that there's no necessity when it then comes to that, because when people write exams, it's just an icing on the cake. These courses that people do, it's a 6-year course, it's a 3-year course, it's a 4-year course. What it then automatically means is these individuals that the past 3 or 4 or 5 years to read for this course, when they write for the final exams, they're just going there to be polished. So we mean, practically speaking, it means these individuals, they are ready. They had to write exams because they were read. And secondly, these people were learning, even those individuals in Zarabani you are referring to, right? There was radio coverage because there were lessons that were conducted over radio for primary and secondary school students. So what it then means is you're automatically shooting yourself in the foot, because you didn't need money to listen to the radio. You just had to sit and listen. So resources then do not count into this debate, because everyone was then therefore included, right? Then secondly, we think that there's an alternative that comes, assuming you're saying that there's a problem, people didn't really learn. We think there's an alternative. You don't have to make people receipt because it's much more expensive. You can always revisit the curriculum. Grade 7 students, you revisit the curriculum, then say your Form 1, the first course that you get to write, it has got something to do with some basic knowledge that you were supposed to learn last year, right? We think you can we can have extra hours when people are actually getting to go to school. Adjustments can always be made. Cheaper adjustments that are not more expensive, because as you have highlighted earlier on, our governments cannot afford. A government that is being subsidized by UK aid, US aid, and other donors to get to fight the global pandemic cannot afford to then force individuals to then receive. Even if you say the government has to subsidize these exams, they are not in a capacity to subsidize, because they are currently fighting a global pandemic, which they are even struggling to even get to fight this global pandemic. So we think that you automatically shot yourself in the foot when you then try to argue. We think the problem that you address, you then talk about how the curriculum is bad, but it's got no link to then COVID-19, because if you're saying the curriculum is bad, then it means we have to revisit last year, year after, because you're saying that people are learning, but they are not applying the knowledge that they have, because you can't test that these people are not applying because they've just graduated a month ago. They haven't even been employed. How do you know that they can apply? Because we know Zimbabweans are capable of improvising. You need to address that.
And that's time. Affirmative. We need a 1-minute cross-examination from you starting now.
All right, we want to understand what you think should happen to people who are unable to sit for exams and therefore were disenfranchised by the stance that the government took.
Which stance did the government take?
By allowing just education to continue, but then there were some people that were not able to then afford this particular education.
Everyone was able to afford, because education was even conducted, even through radio. You could listen to lessons. So you can't argue on how people couldn't afford.
Do you think every child in Mzumba was able to access education the way that you're talking about?
One thing that the poor person they might not have a laptop or a TV, but they have a radio.
Are you a poor person?
I'm somewhere in between.
Okay. All right, it's all right. Do you agree that the level of education acquired was not enough for people to then progress and be allowed to get into the system in a dying economy, and we're going to allow people that are substandard to get into our economy and try to work out things in our economy?
The argument that the level was not enough is not okay, because you'd find that there were exams that were set and there was a metric that was used to mark these exams. It's only the examiner that gets to decide whether they met that cutoff point. How you acquire the knowledge, you don't care. What we care about is was the examiner satisfied, and they were satisfied.
Time. Opposers, you have a 2-minute rebuttal that starts now.
Panel, the main thing that they bring is that, you know what, people have been affected and they are not able to sit for exams. Panel will tell you that when you go to a primary school, you stay for 6 years to wait for that one exam in grade 7. We think that Zimbabweans or African in general are equipped to sit for the exam. We think that it looks bad on us, the teachers, if we say they're not capable. No, we've been teaching you for 6 years. What have you been doing all along? It means we've been wasting state resources. Number 2, they tell us, no, the local citizen doesn't have access to education. We think that the government has done enough to make sure. Number 1, Econet subsidized bundles. bundles. We think that teachers tried to meet students halfway by making online lessons. So what are we going to say about that student that took it upon herself to say, you know what, it's a pandemic, but I'm going to read? What are we going to say about that student? Are we saying that a student, he or she wasted time? Are we saying that it is not necessary for a student to read? Also, it reflects badly upon you as a student. Are you saying you can't sit for an exam because of a pandemic, because of lockdown that was only 6 months? You go to university for 4 years. For 4 years to study for 1 degree. And that 4-1, that 4-2 that is writing a dissertation is 6 months to write that dissertation. In fact, it actually gave them time to produce quality work. We think that panel, it relates badly on us. If we say, you know what, the pandemic caused disruption, then we are cancelling. We also think that economies cannot afford. We think that panel already, we are amongst we are suffering in Zimbabwe. We think that panel stationery in and that of itself is expensive. We think that for that girl that they are relating to, she cannot afford stationery. So we think that we cannot then say, okay, grade 7, don't write, you're going to write next year. What happens then to that parent that has saved money to buy for the Form 1 school uniform? What happens to her? So we think that panel in and out of itself, we don't think the argument that they're saying 4 years, it was limited time. You think you had ample of time because of the lockdown. You think you had to took it upon it was now an individual mandate to say, I'm going to read. And I'm going to read, and for that matter, I'm going to excel. Also, we think that this is taxing on universities. We think we cannot cancel on certificates. What then happened to state resources? Panel, we think that would rather channel our institutions, or like Vaccine said, on a new curriculum that.
Affirmative. You have 2 minutes for a rebuttal starting now.
Panel, the argument that the government does not have enough money for them to subsidize education and how it's going to be so expensive completely falls into the drain. Panel, where we can have a whole government discussing, oh my gosh, let's repay white farmers because we took land from white people when the land never belonged to white people in the first place. We think that we have a government that is definitely able to take that money that they want to put in something else and put it into something such as education. So the argument that they come and bring about, oh my gosh, you don't have money, we do have the money. Panel, we think that government has a mandate to come and help society and help children that were disadvantaged, including people that are not even children, people that were doing night school, something of the sort, in order to create an equal plane. Panel, we told you that the same idea that they think is ridiculous is the same idea that Boris Johnson and the British government but particularly put into place when children were receiving grades that they did not deserve to receive, when children that had worked so hard did not get the results that they were supposed to receive, and children that had not even done enough were just given grades that, you know, they did not actually deserve. So panel, we think that there are governments out there, such as the British government, that are doing things almost in the same way that Zimbabwe did things when it came to writing exams, right? We think that at a point where we realize as a government that what we did is unfair, we then should take a position or take a stance to redo or to undo those things that we've particularly done, right? So panel, we told you that the same exams that people sat for, we think that they were set in unfair circumstances. We think that even the things that were then submitted in these particular universities were actually unfair. Therefore, that means that these particular examinations that people set for were illegitimate. We think that site non-affirmative today is a site that supports so much privilege. At the point where they tell you that everybody received radio lessons, everybody managed to submit their dissertation, everyone had ample time in the lockdown, as if GBV was not happening in those particular homes and children were not able to study. We think that they're pushing for a narrative that is very privileged, right? So panel, we tell you that because of those few children, or because of the many children that we do not know in Uzumba Maramba Pungwe that voted the highest in the last elections, we think that there are many children that did not have access to adequate education, and the government has to take it upon itself to level the playing field, where other students are able to move on, but other students are not able to move on. We think that the government has to answer for that. Where you've been able to progress because of your privilege, we think that government should overlook that particular privilege and instead dealing with those that are marginalized within society, and we beg to propose.
And certainly right on time. Opposers, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to close, starting now.
Panel, you know that affirmative is panicking when they make contradictions like government is poor, then later on they come and say government has got money because they want to pay white farmers. Such contradictions cannot go unnoticed. But secondly, we think that they missed the point in this debate because their major argument, or the strongest argument, was to argue for whether or not individuals can sit for exams or should sit for exams, which is not the case in today's debate. The case in today's debate that they ought to have argued for was to justify why that certificate, you have graduated, you have passed, why should we nullify that? Why should we not trust that? They did zero in relation to justifying that, right? But still, either way, right, what do we then give you from our side of the house, right? Number one, we give you that number one, there's uncertainty, which they still did not respond to on how. What assurance do you have that next year in 2021, when you push these exams, there will be no COVID-19 or the pandemic will not be there? They did nothing to address that. Secondly, we also told you that Zimbabweans have got an ability to improvise. This is clear-cut evidence that if you write exams and pass in such extreme circumstances, it means that you can survive out there in the business world that is not friendly, right? We also have told you that this situation, these certificates are much more credible than in that scenario rather than what they want us to do, right? Secondly, we also told you that it's not necessary. There's no necessity. They failed to establish necessity to then say, look, why then should we justify nullification, because we have told you that they've had 6 years to learn, they've had 4 years to learn. There's nothing that they did to respond to that. So we think we deserve to win this debate on grounds that we have given you an alternative as well, to say we can always amend the curriculum to say, for those that, if you think that there was something that was lacking in 2020, when you go for Form 1 next year, we will amend your curriculum to then include some of the elements that you missed. When you go for university, you learn these things.
Time. This is the final presentation and representation you shall be getting before we go to the all-important time when we cede our power into the hands of our adjudicators. This shall be the affirmative closing representation. It shall last, rather, 1 minute and 30 seconds, and that minute and 30 seconds, well, that starts now.
Panel, I apologize to side opposition if they didn't assess my sophisticated speech, because throughout I was talking necessity. Panel, when we talk mental health, when we talk structures, when we talk privilege, when we talk mechanism, we are talking necessity. But anyways, we live in a world that has successfully broken us. And call it, by being broken, we mean by being so broken up to a point where we need to accept everything, and they call that resilience. By ignoring the mental strain that children go through and still expect them to perform and call that resilience. It's actually an insult to human dignity, and it actually undoes. It's actually called reverse reclamation. I think it's ridiculous. But anyways, what did you get from our debate? They argue that it's expensive. They argue that kids will have to repay fees. We don't think it's possible. First of all, we think that stationery has already been bought. The issues that government will face are issues that they still have to address of teachers' pay, which is a pending issue that the money that these kids pay will not even address, right? What do you get? We talk about privilege and how we need to level the playing field. We talk about stakeholder analysis. These kids are the most important things, people, in this debate, more than the economy itself. We can't give the economy life and kill the people. It doesn't make sense. That's capitalism, and it's honestly ridiculous. But also, they talk about how we need to place mechanisms to protect kids from contracting the virus. And this is what we bring into this debate, and we think we're able to win, because they only give two major arguments, which are really trivial. They're trivial and petty to this debate, which is like, honestly, something that we can't write up a home about. We can't talk about expenses. We can't talk about how everyone is equal, when in actual fact they are not. We need to restructure and reimagine education policy in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you. And there ends our main meal of the day. They're pitting the University of Zimbabwe and Midland State University. Our ultimate winners shall be coming from between these two teams. Well done. It's been an intriguing day. It's been an absolutely difficult day. And you've given us some of the best nuggets of knowledge, and right now our adjudicators are busy tabulating information to find out who they shall give us as the ultimate winners. And certainly out there you've got people who are rooting for you, people who had absolute faith in you. I've got one, Liam. Liam has been going on and on about guessing, and he's been guessing rather well. However, we've got a lot to be thankful for, and key to be thankful for our sponsors, because this debate is brought to you by Say What, with the support from the Swedish Embassy, UNFPA and SAI. So certainly this would not have happened outside of their assistance. I'm going to also be able to give you the rundown of the positions taken by the other universities from position 10 right up to position perhaps 5 eventually. And then I'm going to give you the rest of the teams when we eventually announce our winner. We're actually giving our adjudicators at the moment time to do so. But before we pause for a break, I just want to hear from my two teams here. How did you, MSU, how did you, Baxton, how did you see the going in this particular final round? Wow. And indeed, the whole day, how was that for you as an experience?
As for the whole day, I was just on my feet. I was just nervous. But as for the final, it was even worse because I think UZ will agree that there's this rival that exists between MSU and UZ. So this is symbolic.
Yes, because I absolutely symbolic. Because I'm told there are only 2 universities, UZ and others. So I'm sure this is where this comes from.
I think the
oh my gosh, did you just say? Okay, go ahead. Oh my gosh, you were introduced. Somebody was also saying, "Oh my gosh" is my new favorite term.
Oh really?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh wow, all right. I think the whole day was really gruesome. They were very good debaters, and you never know what people are thinking. You never know what people are going to say. So wow, you guys are brilliant thinkers. It was absolutely amazing.
And how beautiful it is for teams, one on one side and the other on another, to actually just acknowledge each other and say, well, you are brilliant thinkers and we've learned from one from the other. Certainly this is what Say What wanted to achieve, and they certainly have achieved that. But when I come back, I shall be telling you which team out of these 2 takes that coveted, beautiful trophy that we have so generously been given by the Harare Institute of Technology. So, stay tuned.
Did you know Say What now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
My name is Leo Munyono from Say What, Manicaland. I'm here today under the Action for Choice project, where we have young men under the Mugota platform. They've been doing dialogues during this event, and they've been talking to young men of their age, talking about different issues of sexual and reproductive health. We are emphasizing that young men, male students, are partners and supporters for young women or female students to access sexual and reproductive health services. These dialogues are meant to promote positive choices amongst young men. We are especially saying young men should not be perpetrators of sexual harassment. Young men should not be perpetrators of gender-based violence within the college environment. So we are saying young men should be supporters for female students. Young men should help in creating a conducive environment where female students are comfortable and safe to access sexual and reproductive health services. The dialogues have been taking place in a very unique way. You see this combi behind me. The young men, can do dialogues here, and they are also doing the dialogues outside this combi. Each time they see this combi moving within the college environment, they see it as a symbol of young men's pride, and they take it as a symbol of advocacy for positive programs that promote female students' participation. And Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences is so proud to be part of this project, which so far has promoted positive participation from the male students, especially in as far as the access to HIV services is concerned, the promotion of gender-based violence-free environment is concerned, as well as the improved access to contraception.
It is my singular honor to share this keynote address on behalf of the Embassy of Sweden in Zimbabwe. The Swedish Embassy is committed to increase access to and respect for sexual and reproductive health and rights, especially for young people. To increase reach to young people, we have partnered Say What for an Action for Choice project, a project that is working hard to expand the knowledge and attitudes of students in Zimbabwe so that they can successfully learn, function, and participate in the broader global community. We believe that when students' sexual and reproductive health choices are broadened, there is increased potential for them to excel in other parts of life, such as education, professional careers, and employability. I would like to commend Say What for doing this important work. It is against this background that I welcome you all to the 2020 National Debate Competition. This year's edition comes at a time when the world is experiencing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is my sincere hope that this debate edition will also highlight how youth development can thrive in times of emergencies such as these. The debate competition, which has been aptly branded the Speak and Solve initiative, creates a good space for critical thinking on subject topics that are difficult for most of our communities. Debating on its own is a good culture, which creates ground to sustainable growth and development. Having said this, I would like to wish all competitors and viewers of this year's debates a good experience as we go through the competition. Finally, in conclusion, I must say that beyond enjoying the moment and celebrating your wins in this competition, please take a moment to reflect on what you will learn and have learned throughout this process, and how you can use that to make yourself and those around you better. Thank you all for joining this broadcast and lending your voices and visions to this debate. I wish you all the best. Tatenda, Siyabonga, Tak.
Hello everyone, it's that time of the year where we have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now this is an international campaign that runs from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, to the 10th of December, which is the Human Rights Day. Now this campaign is there so that we eliminate violence against women and girls, and I hope that you guys are excited. I hope that you're joining the movement. We can prevent gender-based violence against women. Remember to tell a friend, your communities, your friends, your families. Our voices will be heard, our message will be amplified. Be sure to participate in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Did you know Say What now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
Last year, 10 universities from across Zimbabwe locked horns in a game of minds under the Speak and Solve initiative, SASSI debate.
Welcome to the Speak and Solve initiative Universities Debate.
Do you understand the fundamental basis of availing condoms in prisons, and do you agree with it?
The fundamental basis of providing condoms in prisons is to reduce the new HIV infections, and we're saying that it is not the only way that we can do that, and it is not the first step that we need to take, because some of those Zimbabwean prisoners are not educated as to how to use those condoms, and probably they don't even know how they can help them. Pardon?
How are condoms not reactive?
I have to say that this coveted award is being awarded only the second time in its existence, because this is the second year that this debate has been held. You may want to know that the inaugural winners of this lovely trophy were Harare Institute of Technology, and retaining it, congratulations. Come forward.
Will the Harare Institute of Technology be the winners again this year? Will they defend their trophy?
My name is Leo Munyono from Say What, Manicaland. I'm here today under the Action for Choice project, where we have young men under the Mugota platform. They've been doing dialogues during this event, and they've been talking to young men of their age, talking about different issues of sexual and reproductive health. we are emphasizing that young men, male students, are partners and supporters for young women or female students to access sexual and reproductive health services. These dialogues are meant to promote positive choices amongst young men. We are especially saying young men should not be perpetrators of sexual harassment. Young men should not be perpetrators of gender-based violence within the college environment. So we are saying young men should be supporters for female students. Young men should help in creating a conducive environment where female students are comfortable and safe to access sexual and reproductive health services. The dialogues have been taking place in a very unique way. You see this combi behind me. The young men, can do dialogues here, and they are also doing the dialogues outside this combi. Each time they see this combi moving within the college environment, they see it as a symbol of young men's pride, and they take it as a symbol of advocacy for positive programs that promote female students' participation. And Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences is so proud to be part of this project, which so far has promoted positive participation from the male students, especially in as far as the access to HIV services is concerned, the promotion of gender-based violence-free environment is concerned, as well as the improved access to contraception.
Did you know Say What Now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
Say What has taken itself to implement the SASA Together project in partnership with the UN Women and several other partners that are working on it. The project has benefited the different communities we're working with, particularly Hopley community, because of its main focus with the aim of addressing gender-based violence within communities. Say What makes it its mandate to ensure that young people are served with correct and consistent information and also are linked to services within the communities that they are in. That's the major thrust as well that the project focuses on.
The SASA is a methodology that seeks to transform gender norms, and it is based on the understanding that men's power over women is the root cause of GBV. And we've seen that as long as GBV is rife in a community or in a household, it becomes difficult for household members, particularly women and girls, to then participate in other areas of life. We're looking at women participating in economic activities, participating in politics, participating even in the governance of their communities or the country at large. So as long as GBV is rife, we are then affecting other development outcomes.
Pakapinda program yeSay What muno yekutanga taitongoona kunga zvisina basa, asi pandakazoona training yacho yakatondibatsirawo nokuti ndanditoriwo mumhirishongwe, saka ndakava neinterest yakanyanya kuti ndidzidze nekuzoudzwa vamwe kuti zviiko zvine chekuita nezvazvo. Saka tiri kuita mareferrals atinoita atakadzidziswa kuti kana iri nyaya yekuti mwana arepwa ndofanira kuti ndiende naye kupi, kana kuti mwana aabuswa social welfare inofanira kunge ine information, kana kuti mwana ari kubatwa zvisizvo kana kuti arepwa mwana afanire kuenda kuchipatara awane kubatsirika within 72 hours.
SASA yakatibatsira zvikuru nenhau yekuti ndaigara ndichirwa nemudzimai wangu, saka yakatiudza kuti mhirishonga yakaipira pane zvakasiyana siyana. Saka naizvozvo ndinoitenda SASA project nekuti zvinhu zvedu zvachinja, takugara zvakanaka nemudzimai wangu.
Uyezve nyango ndoita zvebhora, saka kubhora iwo nangoti kana nyango timu yangu ikatozhiwa inineka ndakutoda zvezvibhakira kubaya nekuita sei vanhu nemapanga mvuka ndakapinda majeri nenyaya inoizi iyoyo.
Ndoda kutenda veSay What neprogramu yavo yavakaunza yeSASA muno yaishanda nezvegender based violence. mumba medu mune dambudziko. Mumba medu zvichita kutowirana kana kunyange kuita chinhu takutoita chinhu chimwe chete. Kunyange manwira vakuita doro mazuva ano. Vakutonwa doro zvakanaka because vaitoti it's a must kuti every day vanwe doro. Vakanwa doro racho ritori dambudziko mumba. Pamusoro vadzidziswa nyaya yeGBV. Kana nyangwe vari kubhawa ndonyaya yavanenge vachilecture iyoyo.
Taiva vamwe vaishungurudzawo vakadzi mudzimba umo takazviona kuti zvinodzorera mumashure. Inini ndisati ndadzidza mhirishonga taiita zvekuti kabva kubhawa taiva takadhakwa tichivhiringa vakadzi. Saka kubva ipapo patakabatsirwa takaona kuti hazviite kuti tirambe tichiita mhirishonga nevakadzi bhozi tinge iri losi yataichitoita. Bhozi mukadzi unomukwadza futi uda kuzomuendesa kuchipatara ndiwe. Vana futi unenge uchivavhiringidza kuti vachikura vanozokura vasina kunazoita pfungwa dziri nani nekuti vanenge vachingoti ndo zvatakakura tichiita.
Ndakaenda kuna sister Fochi. Ndataura nasister Fochi murume wangu akambotanga achiramba. Kusvika vazouya vagara naye pasi vanyatsomutsanangurira nemo vasingamhanyi. Kwakuzotora iti bhozi yepa akanzwa kuti VFU akafunga kuti ndakunodi ndakunosungwa. Kwakuenda kuVFU kwakunotsanangurwa kwakunotaurwa nasemukadzi nemurume. Takabva ikoko takanserwa nevanhu vanga vari ikoko. Zvekuti patakatoya murodi tisvika kumbaka aiwa rudo rwanga rwakatsva.
Mukadzi amanikidzwa bonde kana asingadi.
Mudzimba munoda rudo. Kana mawana mari ivai munetsa pamusoro pamwe chete. Chataura mumwe unofanira kuchiteererawo.
With SASA together, the future can only be bright.
Did you know Say What Now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
Last year, 10 universities from across Zimbabwe locked horns in a game of minds under the Speak and Solve Initiative SASI debate.
Welcome to the Speak and Solve Initiative Universities debate.
Do you understand the fundamental basis of availing condoms in prisons, and do you agree with it?
The fundamental basis of providing condoms in prisons is to reduce the new HIV infections, and we're saying that it is not the only way that we can do that, and it is not the first step that we need to take, because some of those Zimbabwean prisoners are not educated as to how to use those condoms, and probably they don't even know how they can help them. Pardon?
How are condoms not reactive?
I have to say that this coveted award is being awarded only the second time in its existence, because this is the second year that this debate has been held. You may want to know that the inaugural winners of this lovely trophy were Harare Institute of Technology, and retaining it, congratulations. Come forward.
Will the Harare Institute of Technology be the winners again this year? Will they defend their trophy?
Did you know Say What Now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you. Did you know Say What Now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
And so, it is time. There's a team that came, saw, and conquered. They shall be saying indeed in the epic Latin words, Veni, Vidi, Vici. But which team shall that be? It has been an interesting day, a day of great debate and great debaters, or should I even say, even greater debaters. This is a debate that was brought to us today by Say What, with the support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe and from UNFPA and of course from SAI. Now, before we tell you who will clinch this ultimate prize that we have in front of Ebenezer and the lovely Tariro, we shall bring to task our adjudicators, and I believe it is our chief adjudicator, Ngobile, who shall be telling us what they were looking for, just in brief, so that we understand and appreciate the format that they were approaching this debate with, and certainly to understand even further the criteria and the thinking behind the ultimate winner that we shall be announcing soon. Without further ado, Ngobile.
Thank you very much, Robert. Good afternoon to the viewers at home, the judges, the debaters. It's been quite a long day. I firstly just want to thank the excellent panel of adjudicators that was assisting me throughout this entire debate. I must say that it was a very competitive debate tournament. I think it was as challenging as, you know, when King Solomon had to apply what we call the Solomonic wisdom, you know. So in terms of what we were prioritizing at this debate tournament, what we considered to be the most important thing was the quality of argumentation and not the quantity of arguments throughout this tournament. And no, I just want to say that there's once a man who said that, you know, evil persists in the world because there's good men to do nothing. In debate, we say that good ideas die because there are no good debaters to, you know, to champion them. So in this case, we looked at the teams that had the ideas or the arguments that were able to withstand the pressure of rebuttals from all the other teams. And I must say that, like I said, it was not an easy task, but we had the best panel before us. We had an expert on reproductive health. We had a former champion as well on our panel, and of course myself as a debate veteran. But nonetheless, I must say that we had quite a good number of teams this year. I think this was probably the best tournament ever, best competition that Say What has ever hosted in the past 2 years. And for that, I'd like to congratulate all the debaters who participated in this tournament. I think you should give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, I just, as a parting shot, I just want to say that to the audience at home, the debate is not over, okay? The conversations are ongoing. Everything that you have learned, let's continue to talk about it. To the debaters, there are no losers. They are only learners, okay? Everyone learns. No one loses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nqobile. And now we know for sure what it is that you were looking for. And now, if you are in that pot, waiting to know who clinched what, now you absolutely know what our adjudicators were looking for. As you can see there, we've got very anxious creatures lurking behind the judges there, eager to know. Some may have even fallen by the wayside already, but they want to know who shall be crowned champions ahead of them and who they shall be targeting their venom against come next year. I shall be giving you that rundown very briefly of our teams up until fourth position, whereupon I will announce the third position, and those in third position will come up here and receive their certificates and their lovely, lovely medals there from Tariro. Tariro has a bronze, a silver and a gold medal, but in front of her she also has, for position 3, Tariro, there is a phone in the little bag there, and that shall be going to those in position 3. That's a Samsung A20, top of the range phones. Indeed, in this world, in this digital world, we need to stay abreast. And if you are going to clinch second position, Tariro, yet again, I will indulge you. So there we are. That's a Samsung A30, I presume it is. But if you decide, if you just make the decision, conscious decision to say, well, you know what if we just take first position? Well, if you make that decision and you think you're comfortable coming first, you shall be receiving something that's in the slightly bigger gift bag. And that's an absolute, a whole tablet, Galaxy tablet there, Tab A. So if you're just interested in first position, that's the burden you'll be going away with. Absolutely fabulous prizes. And as we said last year, they keep getting better and better. And of course, unfortunately, as Nqobile has said, the debating keeps getting better and better. So why not make the prizes get better and absolutely better? I shall announce 10 to 3. and I'll implore third position to come and collect your prizes. But then I will announce position number 1. And when I do, if your name has not been called upon as first position, then that means you are the ones who are coming here to collect your little goodies, because after that, the greatest of the great will then be gracing us here on this podium. The world out there is saying the debate is far from over. In Trump's words, the debate is far from over. So yes, people are listening. So, position learner number 10 was Lupane State University. Learner number 9 was Bindura University of Science Education. Learner number 8 was Harare Institute of Technology, who, as I said, have proudly given this back to us. We don't know where they've sent it to. Learner number 7 is Great Zimbabwe University. Learner number 6 is Chinhoyi University of Technology. Now, interestingly enough, Chinhoyi, you had come in as the best runner-up. In round 1, you were number 6. And overall, you kept number 6. You decided not to steal through. We do know last year, position number 6 went on to clinch number 1, and that was Harare Institute of Technology. You didn't manage that feat, but congratulations, you did absolutely well for yourself. Position 5 and in the top 5, Wanda State University. And we don't know between these two who shall be clinching position 3, but we will now, because on 4th position is the National University of Science and Technology. So you lose out in that 3rd place position. And I will implore the Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences, please come up here, collect your certificates, collect your medals, collect your phones, and congratulations.
This is not supposed to be yours, huh? Rob, I get carried away when it comes to the top 3, yeah? Yes. So
Actually, it is that does belong to them.
it does belong to them.
Yes, it does.
Oh, surely.
Give them their dues
You guys, you should protest, eh?
and say this belongs to us.
Shortchange you.
So,
Congratulations.
please face the cameras over here before you get your little goodies with your certificates. And now receive your little goodie bags. Yeah, yes. And once more, little, yes, this is your moment to savor. Congratulations, 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 Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences. We did have 2 left, and we still have 2 left, but I shall now announce the winner of this 3rd edition of Say What's National Universities Debate, of course supported by SAI, the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, and UNFPA. But before I do, let's go for a short break, and then you will know who the champions are. Don't go away.
Did you know Say What Now has a call center? You can call us on 086 7700 8743 for information on sexual and reproductive health. Stay informed and never feel lonely. In any situation, Say What is there for you.
Well, no great mind achieves greatness without being nurtured. So you shall know that while we're giving them these medals, I've got medals right next to me, and I did not nurture them, but they've got people, patrons back home, and some who accompanied them, and we've got 3 medals per team. So while we've got 2 participants, there's always that one person. There we go. Here they are. And we've also got a gold one. Cadbury will capture this. Say what over here? And Sassy Cadbury, the proud gentleman behind that camera, otherwise known as Kabudura. But we call him Cadbury. He's a sweet man, sweet father. So, this is Zimpapers Television Network. This is Say What. This is the year 2020. And the Kings going with the gold. Yes. Yes, Liam, it's Midland State University. And as a result, I will have to implore the University of Zimbabwe for coming very close to making sure that this stays in the capital. But of course, it has now gone to the Midlands. University of Zimbabwe, come and claim your runners-up prize before we clear the area for the Kings. Silver medalists. You came so close. What can I say? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, your A30s there and your 2 certificates.
Thank you so much, Mama. I made it.
Yeah, Mama, you did, absolutely. And now, could you just pose? No. It's a moment over there. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful moments there. But before I give and hand over these gold medals to, of course, the deserving recipients, I've got 2 people I need to honor here. Beg your pardon, I've got quite a lot on my hands. There is a good debater and they'll be having points. But trust me, there are some people who stand in front of you and speak and will tell you all the points but not be charismatic or glamorous or beautiful speakers. But we also honor here people who speak beautifully, eloquently, effortlessly. And the best speaker overall in the ladies category, and we shall be handing a certificate for that. I think I've got the certificates here. Yes, yes. The silence is palpable. The best speaker for the ladies is, I will give you a clue. Oh my gosh. So you will get your certificate over here. Never mind that.
Okay, we can pause for a picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Congratulations. Nadia, you were on a team with Anthony, I presume it is. I think Anthony also owes you something, because if I had somebody as lovingly supportive as you, the whole, oh my gosh, you were on fire. So you shall also be getting, as best speakers, a pair of headsets. And these shall be presented to you at an evening cocktail that we will have. Cocktail. Yes. So yes, now your A30s have headsets. But now, men, do not despair. we also have a Best Speaker Award for the Best Male. And the Best Male will be supported right now by somebody who's going to be going, because it is Anthony from the University of Zimbabwe. They speak like no other.
Congratulations, man.
Never mind that.
Good job.
Absolutely brilliant job. And those headsets are going to be following you. And in your own quiet moment, you're going to be listening to the world and speaking to the world, because a good speaker has to be a good listener. And that's why we've got those headsets for you. And now, all hail the kings of debate, the kings of reason, the kings that broke the fortress that was Harare Institute of Technology and said, we shall move the capital of debating in the Republic of Zimbabwe to Gweru. Midlands State University, come and claim your ultimate prize. Apparently now everything is something of a sport, because our people here are saying Midlands State University, Pedzama Sports. The fedora finally comes. Is it going to finally come off? Fedora, finally. So this is the secret. People don't know what lies underneath the kilt of a Scotsman, but now we know what lies underneath that fedora. Congratulations, your tablets. Hand them over.
There you are.
And I want you to, yes, absolutely. Yes, you can put your fedora on now and cover what we already know. At this time, Tariro, I will ask you to assist me. I want you to take away from them whatever they are holding and put it right outside of you, in front of the adjudicators, because they've got a very heavy task that's coming. They're going to... So, can you hand over your goodies? You shall get them back, don't worry. Winners never lose their stuff. And we certainly will not lose your stuff for you. Probably if you just even put them just next to you, just down there, because something new is about to happen. So, you do not cede a territory without being present. Harare Institute of Technology, come and give away what was yours for 2 years. Where is Harare Institute of Technology? So that nobody says, Zvagarigwa, Changatisipo. We want you to hand it over. The erstwhile kings, and stand right here, because Ebenezer will be handing it over to you, because this far the Lord has brought us, because Ebenezer indeed, and this far, only this far and not beyond here shall you take this. But you are also allowed to smile and say, you know what, it was very difficult to polish anyway. Midlands State University, claim your prize. All hail the kings. Congratulations. So here we are. Face Cadbury over there. Come through. You've just given it over. You can face the gentleman over there. Yes. And the house, please, a round of applause yet again, because this was a fairly fought battle, and this was a well-fought fight. And certainly, as we said, everybody has been a winner, and we look forward to fighting another day and fighting for it from you next year, Midlands State University. Thank you so much. You can take your prize, you can claim your prize, and I'm now going to implore that, thank you so much. You can take that. That belongs to you. And now, quickly, I'm going to have Ebenezer give us a vote of thanks before our ultimate, absolute closing, as we bid farewell to you absolutely soon and move on to that cocktail.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate the time. You know, for me, Rob, it's always a great marvel to be here and be able to add my own voice to the festivities that have taken place as has preceded us. Now, I'm very happy to be here. Though, of course, there are a little bit of glitches that I've faced when I was contemplating on how I was going to deliver this vote of thanks, because, I mean, look at the people who are here today. We're very big people. We have star-studied debaters, great debaters, such that I feel like a nurse at a doctor's convention. But I'll try to execute this duty to the best of my capabilities. So first off, would like to thank our biggest partner, which is the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, who continuously support us. They continuously give us the support that we need in order to move ahead with all our programming. We heard Mr. Celerad speak earlier on today. He spoke in very persuasive words and showing that he's in solidarity with the cause that we have today. We also wish to thank the UNFPA. With those support, we could not have been able to host this festivity. Further to this, we have SAI, who have remarkably assisted us and have been there for us throughout the process as we were setting up, as we got to the stages of finalizing on holding this debate, up to the point where we announced our winner, as we've just witnessed. Further, we cannot gainsay the essence of our 10 state universities, who have all participated very well and have showed us that they really do go for their money. We'd like to thank our university authorities. We'd like to thank our focal persons, with whose support we could not have been able to be here today. Further, I wish to thank our adjudicators. They did a marvelous job. Though, of course, I think it wouldn't have been as fair if I was going to be participating, because I know them very well at an individual level, and it's so exciting. But let me say this, that they did a very marvelous job today, and we're very grateful to them. Further, we also like to thank the ZTN production crew, who always come up and they always assist us to reach the world, to reach the global world, and be able to share this valuable information with the rest of the world. And the Secretariat team of Say What, they've also come through with all their energies. They've helped facilitate everything and put everything together. And let me tell you this, that without the Secretariat of the Say What, with all of the support that we had, we still could not have had this event a success. So it's very significant that we thank them as well. Equally, we thank our online movements of students across social media platforms. You know, all our hashtag Sassy, hashtag Let's Learn, hashtag all sorts of beautiful hashtags that we've been seeing on Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook platforms. And that is something that's valuable to us. We continue to network, we continue to realize the essence of reaching all corners of the world in this global era. Further, you will agree with me on just how insightful our topics were. You know, our SRH issues, our mental health issues. And it cannot be gainsaid that those issues are the issues that we need to stand up and make noise about in this era. So I continue to applaud our participants today. I continue to urge them to go back with that knowledge and share it with their peers. And let's ensure that there is continuity, because we saw some very good performance here, but we do not want to see it ending here. We want to see it living on as an idea that everybody will be able to tap into and find greatness. Now, Rob, I always thank you for the meticulous job that you do, you know, through which we're always kept entertained. Thank you so much for having us. I think I will owe you one maybe later at the cocktail.
I know what one is, and certainly am owed one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ebenezer. And of course, Ebenezer always brings us thus far. It's a beautiful, beautiful day it has been. And we certainly thank those sponsors that he mentioned. I'll run down real quickly. Say What, our eternal partners, Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, who we've worked with for ages and ages. SAI, who are always coming through for this debate. And of course, UNFPA, who are joining us now. Maybe you've heard the news. Zim Papers Television Network have finally gotten a free-to-air license, and we shall be hitting the airwaves anytime soon. There is a reason behind this, and if you've watched this production, that is the reason behind it. If broadcasting were a religion, of course, we we would be the cathedral of it all. And today, running that cathedral, Steve Chivari was leading from the front alongside my director, Musa Ali. Thank you for making Zim Papers proud, and thank you for showing the world that we deserve that license, a license we have finally gotten. And of course, going forward with our partners, we're saying we're going to be on more and more platforms so we can only get stronger and stronger. Our competitors fell by the wayside. So we have the best of the best of the best. And that is why we're hosting the best of the best of the best. But today belongs to Midland State University. Somebody says if it goes to Midland State University, it can never go back. We shall see that next year. But until then, there's a cocktail awaiting, there's one awaiting, and there's a celebration in the wings there for the Midland State University. It's been a great day. It's been an absolutely fabulous day. Have a great night.